direct snap to Brooks with Conyers next to him. Yep, direct snap. Brooks to the end zone. Touchdown! Texas Tech has the lead over unbeaten Iowa State with 19 seconds left.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And it's Sanders ripping through the hole. One man might catch him. Touchdown! 52 yards.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Washington's patient, first down and then some. Inside the red zone, and he is into the end zone. 40 yards for Washington.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Out of the pocket. He's going to run for it. Dives! Somersault into the end zone for a Louisville touchdown. Wow.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
It is just me. Sorry to disappoint. Craig is out for the weekend. Paul is out for the weekend. And here I am. Good afternoon, 365 Sports. Emery Winter and Garrett Ross are in the studio with me. We have a bunch of guests to get to. We have Sam Kahn from theathletic.com and Grayson Grundhafer from 365 Sports. Former BYU quarterback John Beck, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Baylor men's basketball coach Scott Drew as the Bears are licking their wounds after getting pummeled by Gonzaga Monday night, and Arkansas with John Calipari tomorrow in Dallas at the American Airlines Center, and Fox Sports broadcaster Brock Huard. Those are the guests today, plus we'll have Paul's top five at some point later in the show. Let's get straight to it. First of all, hope you're doing well. This is, 4 weeks left. 4 weeks left in the regular season in college football. Then the conference championship weekend. And, of course, each week we'll see what the college football playoffs standings are like, and we'll just lose our minds on that. All right, so here's the Big 12 schedule this weekend. Brock Huard, by the way, is in Lubbock. He'll be doing that game between Colorado and Texas Tech. West Virginia will be playing Cincinnati. That game is at FS1, 11 o'clock kick, and then there's a game at 2:30. Iowa State trying to bounce back in the second game on FS1, playing at Kansas. Colorado and Texas Tech at 3 o'clock. I'm hoping I'm going to go play golf, depending on the weather, go play golf in the morning, settle in, do a lot of the summary work that I do for high school football. We don't have a Baylor game tomorrow for me to cover, so I'm going to just sit back. I might even do a little bit of that cheese, ground sausage, Jimmy Dean or Owens, hot, with a little bit of hamburger, Rotel tomatoes, and then some of that queso dip. I might do that tomorrow and be ready for that kickoff at 3 o'clock. UCF and Arizona State in Tempe. Oklahoma State. Oh, boy, there's a note about Mike Gundy. We'll get to that in just a moment as far as the stretch of winning seasons with the head coach at Oklahoma State. That game, TCU FS1. And then a nightcap, BYU, Utah in the Holy War. We will have former BYU quarterback John Beck, as I mentioned, on the show. Arizona, Baylor, Houston, and 22nd-ranked Kansas State all have the week off. Top 25, there's a couple of bangers. What are bangers, Garrett Ross?
Those are games that are elite to the max.
Absolutely, and also almost always are two ranked teams that are playing each other. Georgia and Ole Miss right there. That's one. That game's an ABC game right there at that big-time 2:30 kick. And Alabama and LSU, 11 and 14, will be the follow-up game tomorrow night. Other games in the top 25, Oregon rolling along, unanimous number 1. Will play at Maryland. Ohio State trying to continue after the win against Penn State. They play at Purdue. They should roll. Miami at Georgia Tech. I don't know. Georgia Tech at times can not just rise up. They've been pretty good, but that still looks like Miami has too much, but that is a road game. Florida, will DJ Lagway play? Will it make much of a difference anyway? Texas is nearly, I think the last I saw was like 17.5-point favorites at home at DK Royal Memorial Stadium. Washington, Penn State could be interesting. Tennessee, Mississippi State. There's Michigan and Indiana. Indiana has to just keep winning. They're like BYU. Just keep winning, and things will take care of themselves. Florida State, Notre Dame, when the season began, this is going to be a hell of a game. Notre Dame, they got a lot to play for. Florida State doesn't have much at all. Nevada, Boise State, Aston Genty, the Heisman Trophy right now among the top 4 or 5 names in that race. Pitt at home against Virginia, Oklahoma at 24th ranked Missouri. So those are the games going on. Also, 20th ranked Washington State will be on the CW late tomorrow night against Utah State. Ranked teams having the weekend off: SMU, Texas A&M, Kansas State, as I mentioned earlier, and Louisville. So here are a couple of notes in college football. By the way, thank you for being a part of the show, 365 Sports Tonight. If you're in it early, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. Hit that like button. We got some of you that monitor the chat room that are pretty good about going. We have 275 people who are monitoring or in the chat room. That doesn't mean that's all who's watching, because we're also on 365 Sports YT on Twitter and their Sikkim 365 app. Hit the like button, and if you're new to us, please subscribe if you don't mind. We would appreciate that too. Arizona State honoring the late Pat Tillman. Played with the Sun Devils, played with the Cardinals in the NFL, was killed friendly fire. He joined, of course, armed forces after what happened with 9/11, and he's out. And Arizona State will honor him with these really cool, kind of I don't know, how would you describe that, Garrett? Almost looks like a pilot's helmet you would see flying a jet fighter, and then, of course, a combination with something else.
It also kind of reminds me of like having a shield, like you make the thing out of the logo out of a shield. That's kind of what it reminds me of. It's a very good look. It's a very clean logo that they came up with, and it's just a great cause that they're going to be able to rock it. So I'm excited to see what they can do in these uniforms.
Yeah, Veterans Day, of course, coming up on Monday. Let's not forget that. Also, Army, speaking of military, 8-0. They're a 6-point favorite to win at North Texas, just a little bit north of where we are in Denton. That's from Circus Sports. How about this? They have not trailed in a game this season. Remember, Indiana was in that I guess group, but they had to bounce back and forth last week and eventually separated for an easy win. Have not trailed at all. Saturday will have been 358 days and 12 games since they last lost. They lost to UMass in October of 2023, the Black Knights have not trailed in a game since that loss to UMass. Now, I mentioned Mike Gundy, and we know that Oklahoma State has to win out to finish 6-6 to get to a bowl game. And even then, they may not finish 500 because, like Baylor in 2022, they were 6-6, then lost to Air Force in a bowl game, and they did not have a winning season at 6-7. Here is a list of the longest consecutive winning seasons in college football. History, coaches. Bobby Bowden, unbelievable run. Bear Bryant, yeah, he was pretty good too. Tom Osborne, 25 years as the head coach at Nebraska following Bob Devaney, 25 consecutive winning seasons. God, those were the days. That's going to make me want to have a moment of reflection. It's been a long time. Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech, of course, his son's at South Carolina. There's Joe Paterno, Lavelle Edwards, Darrell Royal, Mike Gundy, 18 consecutive winning seasons, trying to tie Royal and Lavelle Edwards, and this is in deep jeopardy. There's Bob Stoops at Oklahoma, Fielding Yost back in the day, in the early parts of the 1900s, Nick Saban, time that he took over at, Alabama, and then, of course, went all the way through last year playing in the semifinals, losing to Michigan. Don James, a great coach at Washington, and Barry Switzer, 1973 to 1988. The only one with an active streak right now in that mode, in that level, at those numbers, is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and that is in jeopardy. I should have looked up, and I'm sorry that I did not, of who would be next in line.
It's got to be Whittingham, right?
I don't, yeah, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah. I'll try to maybe dig into that. If you want to do some homework in the chat room, we would love for you to do that too. All right, let's see here, Garrett. We got some good stuff today. I got a note about Texas Beef House we'll get to in a little bit. I spoke with a couple of people within the football program. You know, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe what they've done. They've won 3 in a row. They do not play this weekend. But what they've done is they've been able to, like, all of a sudden, the program that could not run the football is now running the football. A team that could not move the ball well enough or consistently enough on offense, they're putting up 500 yards a game and they're on a 3-game winning streak. And they're off this week. And that doesn't mean that when they get back, everything's fine. They can't blink or flinch. But here's kind of what has been said. They took Sidney Fagar and moved him to left tackle. And he's very athletic at the left tackle position. And most left tackles are the most highly paid offensive linemen at any level in football. He has given them someone on the left-hand side to watch the quarterback's blind side, Sawyer Robertson. And it's also given them a little bit of oomph. Remember when Dawson Pendergrass 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma State was in that scrum and then popped loose for the rest of it for about 50 yards or so? It was Fugar who, by the way, kind of dragged him through that mud, through that pile. And he has given them, Mason Miller made that move, the offensive line coach, and it really has made a difference for the offensive line and protection for Sawyer Robertson, but also in the run game that had been kind of just dormant. So there we are with that. All right, Garrett, who is most likely, let's put those games up in the Big 12.
All right.
On the chat room, I'm about to get into the chat room. Last time I went in the chat room, for some reason, I've kind of had this, it's been stuck. And I think it's people who are trying to eliminate me from the chat room because they know I will eliminate them. So let me get to it. Who among these games right here is most likely of the 3 ranked teams to lose? Is it Iowa State? Is it Colorado at Tech? Or is it BYU against their rival in Salt Lake City, Rice-Eccles Stadium, Utah?
I think for me, it's Colorado. When we were doing our picks this week, I picked Texas Tech to win this game. I just feel like Texas Tech is in a position where they had so much flack and they caught so much hell over the helmet communications thing. You lost 2 games in a row. And then you were able to go and kind of put all of that to bed last week as you went into Ames and upset Iowa State. You have a little momentum here. Baron Morton is healthy, whereas he's been banged up the past couple of weeks. You got him back healthy. I think their receiving core is starting to click. We saw what Taj Brooks can do when he's healthy. Now, I know Colorado has played a lot more physical on defense, and we saw what they were able to do against UCF earlier this season when stopping the run with R.J. Harvey and them. But I think right now going into Lubbock, and I think it was yesterday when Coach Barnett was on with us, and he was mentioning how a lot of these guys haven't been in that environment before. I think this is one where Texas Tech has the momentum to pull off the upset. You have a lot of all eyes are going to be on this. You've already struggled at home this year. You got beat by Baylor. You go back to that ACU game earlier in the year. People have come in there and kind of pushed them around. So I think there's more emphasis on Texas Tech in this game. And I know we were talking earlier off air about like the weather and all the travel going in and people are having issues getting into Lubbock and everything. I think that's one where it's setting up for Colorado to get upset. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen, but out of those matchups, that's the one I would look at. I think Tech could get Colorado.
Would that, and I know because Colorado's ranked,
right?
Would that be an upset if Tech beat them in Lubbock?
I mean, I think given the standings that come out, given Colorado's positioning in where if they take care of business and everything falls as it may, that they can find their path into Arlington and into the CFP, yeah, I think it's definitely an upset. Now, I think they're pretty even matched teams, but I think that given all that's at stake for Colorado, it would definitely be an upset if Tech was able to pull that off.
All right, that will be interesting to see. Colorado 21 on the road against Texas Tech. That game at 3:00 tomorrow. About the time you think BYU's just playing so well and Utah's a mess, it's a rivalry game. Mm-hmm. You really don't know. All it takes is something to happen early in the game, or maybe Utah does what they used to do, which is grind it out into the game, make a play, and win it. And, of course, Iowa State, you wonder if there's a hangover. If there's a hangover and they start a little sluggish, KU with their offense, even though they've been up and down like a roller coaster, KU still the ability to maybe get going on offense. So that game, there are a lot of good ones in the weekend of the Big 12.
Also, I think if you go into the Holy War there, I think it's of note yesterday when we had Stevenson Sylvester on that he mentioned how the Utes have gotten healthy across the board on defense. That's something that they haven't really had going for them the past couple of weeks. You add that onto a rivalry game, you're playing at home, that could become a factor for BYU. But, I mean, at the same time, the Cougars they've gone up against this in the past. They're not afraid of this. They've seen defenses that are very similar. So, but with Utah being healthy and it being a rivalry game, I think that's something to consider as well. They could benefit the Utes.
At Kansas and Oklahoma State, where they are both now with 6 losses with no room for error. KU losing the last time they were out, they lost to K-State by 2? Mm-hmm. And now playing Iowa State to see what they can do after an off week, and maybe they were able to get a few things straightened out. So there we are with the Big 12 and what are the ranked teams. 3 of them, Kansas State has the weekend off, but will it be Iowa State, BYU, or Colorado, in your opinion, who might be the ones that go down inside the Big 12? Conundrum, Buffalo's lose. Tech has Mo. Paxton, BYU would think will crush Utah. Let's see, Jayhawk Chimp, somehow Kansas is getting only 2 points. Kind of amazing when talking about the line. The Holy War being a rivalry is the most likely from Erica. Clint, Colorado is the best quarterback for Tech, who has the best running back in the conference. Let's see, Kyle Visser, Jayhawk Champ. Kansas just scored 42 in the top 25 defense. They're playing better. They scored 29, I think, wasn't it? Kansas? Wait a minute.
I believe.
Hold on. I just looked at them. Kansas's last game out, they scored 42 against Houston. They lost to Kansas State 29-27. They've scored 40 twice against Houston, and then their opening game against Linwood.
But that's saying something to put that up against that Houston defense with how stout they are.
No, yeah. Against the top 25 defense, you're exactly right, and that's what Kyle was alluding to. Let's see here. I'm not sure either of these 3 are going to lose this weekend from Dustin. I would bet Colorado is riding some major energy right now. Let's see. Xavier in a game that's not a part of ranked teams, but TCU will lose to the Pokes. Barney's built. Texas Tech will prevail. And let's see. I thought I saw a couple more. Conundrum, Holy War, only game on TV late Saturday night. That's absolutely correct. Erica, interesting story and stats around Oklahoma State with Coach Gundy. Like I said, he's trying to get one more year, trying to get to 19 consecutive winning seasons. If you look at the stat, put that stat up again if you don't mind, if it's a graphic on the coaches with a winning season. There's one coach who's active, and that's when Garrett brought up, is it Whittingham who's next in line? This sounds like a Rudy's commercial. Whittingham may be next in line. I don't know who it is. I'm talking about FBS, but that's an amazing streak, and that's why you have this kind of – I'm not speaking for Oklahoma State fans, but you kind of have where people are torn. They're pissed off because it's been a bad year. It's been an incredibly – they haven't won a conference game. And at times they have been blown out. And then there's the consistency of what he's brought to the table, which would end with a loss, the next loss, and they are not going to a bowl game. They will not have a winning season.
Okay, I need your opinion on something. I struggle with Mike Gundy because the consistency's there, you can't deny. I mean, obviously the numbers back that up. But at the end of the day, how many programs would he be able to work at like this where he has time to do, what big games has he actually won? He's got one Big 12 championship?
Who's that? Gundy? Yeah.
Okay.
They've beaten Oklahoma a very small amount of times. Let's see here.
Like how many, like think about, like we see, all right, for instance, all the smoke was around Billy Napier until yesterday, right? And we saw, think about Mark Richt, what happened at Georgia. Like he was winning 10, 11 games a year. Like how many programs could Gundy do this at before people fight? Because it feels like it's starting to wear like 20-something years in. But I don't think he would have gotten this long somewhere else without the big games. Like I just don't know how he doesn't get grouped in with the James Franklin and everybody else you talk about when it comes to big games and not living up to it. That's what's always confused me about Mike Gundy. Now, this is also coming from somebody who's a fan of a team who wins national championships and stuff. So I don't know what the standard is.
All right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But here's what I like to look at when people say that. And it's not it's a valid question or comment or even opinion. What were they before him?
This is a great point. Yes, exactly.
So Les Miles was there, and they were okay. They had under Les Miles before he went to LSU. They had 3 winning seasons. They finished 7-5 his last year, 9-4 the year before that. Lost in the Cotton Bowl. Before Les Miles, you had Bob Simmons. That was a nightmare. Before Bob Simmons, you had Pat Jones, and really, really struggled his last several years. He had 2 back-to-back 10-win seasons in 1987 and 88. Went to bowl games, of course. And I think that was when they had Barry Sanders and Hartley Dykes and Thurman freaking Thomas. So, all right. Before that, Jimmy Johnson. What a lot of people, I brought this up, I think, during a commercial break earlier this year with Paul. Jimmy Johnson won 8 games, 4 games, 7 games, 3 games, 7 games.
You think it would be a lot more with the prestige and the Miami
Went to
success?
Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, but obviously they did the right thing. Miami was a great hire. It was a great hire for the Cowboys too. So if you look at Oklahoma State's football history, I'm going back to 1914. 1914. They have 1984, 1987 and 88, 3 10-win seasons with Pat Jones. And with Gundy, they've had 11, they've had 12, they've had 10, they've had 10, they've had 10, they've had 10, they've had 12, and they've had 10 wins. That is why you're patient with him. He's had an incredibly successful stretch for a program. He's had more 10-win seasons since he took over in 2005 than they had for almost 100 years.
I get that.
The highest rank they've ever finished with Gundy, they finished in the top 10 a couple of different times. They might have a really good year, but they didn't finish like with a bowl game. Like in 2021 when they lost to Baylor with a bang-bang play, they did finish 5th in the country. They finished 5th in the country. He's had 9 top 10 finishes. And if you were to go through the history of that program, I don't know if they've ever had but 1 or 2. And I'm talking back in the 1940s. If you're a Oklahoma State fan, help us out. I'm glad I was able to get that win-loss record up. We'll have Sam Conn in just a moment. And then also today, loaded up with Grayson Grundhafer, former BYU quarterback John Beck, who trains a lot of quarterbacks who have been at BYU but also in college football. Mickey on the Cowboys as they host Philadelphia. Scott Drew, spoke with him earlier, recorded that interview with him earlier. I used the word hammered too much, mainly because I've seen Emory and Garrett and Paul on the road, and so I've just seen it. I've used that word before. They got bludgeoned by Gonzaga. They got humiliated by Gonzaga. And then also we'll have Paul's top 5. So I'm looking forward to it. I had a high school game last night, no high school game tonight. And so Paul's out. He's on a trip down to Alabama. And then Craig's out for the weekend. I'll be back with all of them on Monday. I got everything now. Is that right? We do. All right, when we come back, Sam Conn, our great friend from theathletic.com, his thoughts about the Big 12 weekend, his thoughts about the first week of the college football standings. I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be. And then I always add this one, used to be. Someone one time, what do you mean used to be? if your testosterone level drops, and 1 out of every 3 or 4 men, the testosterone in your body will drop. And it's just Father Time. And so it could be you. Maybe it's not. Symptoms include you're not as energetic, you're lethargic, your attention's not the same. You may have gained a little bit of, just a little bit of body fat around your waist, and even though you're active and have a pretty good diet, your sex drive is like non-existent, and your ED, if you ever have the sex drive, is not working either. I think I just described a lot of people. So if in fact that is you, Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com can help you out. Contact them. They will set you up to go get your blood work, look at the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he could put you in a program to increase it so you could become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com. PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Hi, this is David Smoak. As you get older, usually upper 30s, but most likely in your 40s and eventually the 50s, when you get your testosterone checked, 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have low testosterone levels. It's part of Father Time. It's just living life, and that clock starts to tick. Maybe you're fortunate it doesn't have any effect on you. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. They get the results Dr. Petty does. He'll look at them, and then if you need testosterone boost, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hotter than ever. Drive a new 2024 Jeep Compass Latitude for only $24,995. Or how about leasing a new Fiat 500e for only $149 a month? Whether you're ready for an adventure in a Jeep or zipping around in a stylish Fiat, we've got you covered. Hurry to Allen Samuels in Waco today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Ghost Hydration is a fully transparent, fully loaded, full-flavored hydration drink that we've all been waiting for. Ghost is caffeine-free with electrolytes, 0 sugar, and low sodium that'll hydrate your body before, during, and after your workout. Consumer loved with authentic flavors, so grab and enjoy a Sour Patch Kids Blue Raspberry and Red Berry, along with the Kiwi Strawberry, Orange Squeeze, or Lemon Lime. Ghost Hydration can truly be used anytime. Remember, it's formulated for sports, but made for life.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Work with a bank, you should expect the best of everything. That includes face-to-face personal service and the kind of community banking care that only comes from one neighbor to another. That's exactly what you'll get from the First National Bank of Central Texas, where you will know your banker works just as hard as you do. Once again, that's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Settle for nothing less than the first. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Sam Kahn, there he is. Wearing Texas Tech colors today, Sam?
No, Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah. Buc-ee's, of course, they have one in Temple. Then they now have one in Hillsboro. And then, of course, up in the Dallas. They're everywhere. They're just monstrous, like big, huge, monstrous stores. All right, so Colorado, Texas Tech. We're going to have Brock Hewitt on a little bit later on who's doing that game. I asked this question earlier to our chat. Of the 3 ranked teams playing this weekend, Iowa State at KU, Colorado at Tech, and then BYU in the Holy War at Utah. Which of those 3 do you think is most likely on upset alert?
I would say Colorado just because I would say BYU Utah is close, but I just don't know if Utah is good enough. The rivalry aspect of that is interesting to me, but Colorado at Tech to me feels like the most ripe for an upset just because Tech finally showed that they can play defense last week against Iowa State, and that's something I think that's been an Achilles heel for this team all year long. And if they can do that, we know they can score because they've been one of the best offenses in the Big 12 all year. Statistically, I think for up until last week, they were the best. And so to me, when you put that all together with the charged atmosphere you're going to get at the Jones, I think Tech is really in the mix, could put themselves in the mix for a Big 12 title game here. And I think Colorado has played enough games where they've been, they've won close. Remember the Baylor game? Yep. Of course, they lost the K-State game, close at the end. They've kind of been in some tight games that would make me think this one will be too. And so I would, out of those 3, I would pick Colorado to be the one most on upset alert here.
And to me, it's not really a negative comment about Colorado, but if Tech wins that game in Lubbock, then I don't even know if it's an upset other than the fact Colorado's got a number to the left of its name.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the Texas Tech's a good team. I think they should have beaten TCU. So the only really 2 games that I think they got outclassed in were against Washington State and Baylor. The TCU game, they were up, multiples, 3 scores, and they should have held on to that one. TCU, give them credit for coming back in that. But this is a Tech team that's played pretty good football all year, save for the very first start of the season. But I feel like they've got an identity, I feel like. And if I feel like they're turning the corner a little bit here, I think the resilience of them to go get that upset, especially with all the noise of what was going on with the helmet communications and all that stuff the week before, I think it says a lot. And to them to go get a big road win like that, I think it was a big step forward in the Joey McGuire era. So
Kansas State and Iowa State both lose, as you know, last weekend. The standings come out this week. And BYU's 9, although if they win the Big 12 and they keep playing, they'll be a top 4, get a bye. Other than that, who among those that are still involved in winning the Big 12, like we might see a team get on a run at the end, play for the game, and upset somebody, who will be, if Big 12 gets 2 teams in the playoff, who will that be in your opinion?
I still am going to put my money on Kansas State. And here's why. I feel like we've forgotten about them a little bit here just because they lost to Houston, which was a tough loss. And they are a team that, for whatever reason, I feel like every year they drop a game they shouldn't. And whether it happens early or whether it happens in midseason, but for whatever reason, they are able to get better as the year goes on. They're able to finish strong. Chris Kleiman has been able to get this team, I think, to perform at a high level late in the season in November in his time there. And so I would not be surprised if they go on a run here late and end up in the Big 12 title game and end up possibly winning the Big 12 title game. I think the thing is I think they are going to go as Avery Johnson goes. If he takes care of the ball, they're in good shape. If he does not, which he didn't against BYU and he didn't against Houston, then things kind of turn for them. But I still think he's a good quarterback. He's just a young quarterback. He's going to make some mistakes. And so even though Iowa State has been the more consistent team all year, I still feel like the ceiling is higher for Kansas State.
I brought this up, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday with Iowa State losing at home to Tech. And Tech, they got it done the last drive in less than 2 minutes with Taj Brooks scoring. There's a reason why, and I hate to bring it up because I like what Matt Campbell does. I know a lot of people, obviously the AD and others inside the athletic department. Sam, they haven't won a Big 12, or they have not won a conference title since the 1912 season. Isn't the loss against Tech one of the reasons why, even when they have had a team that is pretty good. They just seem like there's that. And in this conference, a lot of people blow a tire. It's incredibly unbelievable that it's been that long for that football program.
Yeah, it's just, you have some programs that have just been at a certain level for a lot of their existence. We've seen that in college sports a lot, and Iowa State's been one of them. And that's why Matt Campbell has been lauded for the job he's done, because he's gotten them to the point where now we expect them to be better. We don't expect them to lose a game like that, even though it does happen. He's raised the floor on that program to a level that it really hasn't been. And I think he deserves be commended for that. That said, I will say, and this is why I say the ceiling is a little bit lower on them, Campbell builds his program on winning on the margins. He likes to use that term, winning on the margins, which means we're gonna win, in little small areas. We're gonna outwork you, or we're gonna be a little cleaner, and that's great. But when it comes to playing for a championship, sometimes you just got to be able to go put your foot on someone's throat.
Mm-hmm.
And they escaped a close one against Iowa. I even remember when they played Houston, they were only up 3-0 at halftime against a Houston team that at that time offensively was awful. And so they like, you've got to be able to, they were even down, you remember 14-3 to Baylor. Then they eventually came back and put the foot on the gas. I would have loved to see Iowa State come out with a 21-0 lead against one of these teams, one of these power conference teams, to show me that you can assert your will. But that's just not the style of football they play. And so if you're going to play a game close to the vest, which, and I'm going to say that I don't think it's a bad strategy for that program, because that program is not going to recruit 4- and 5-star athletes on an annual basis. And so I understand why they do it that way. And it has been largely successful, but it leaves you a small room for error, so that if you are playing games that are that close to the vest, if you do make a couple of turnovers or you do have some bad mistakes, then it's going to end up costing you like it did against Texas Tech.
Clint Moses in the chat, K-State is one-dimensional running the ball. Iowa State not great at one thing, but fundamentally sound.
I think Iowa State is defensively. That's the thing, is you can hang your hat on Iowa State defensively. As long as John Haycock is there, they're going to be one of the best defenses in the country. I agree, K-State is not as effective throwing the ball, but that one strength that they have with Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, and DJ Giddens, it is a really impressive strength. And I go back to the fact that they just have to take care of the ball. This is not new that Kansas State has, it is more of a run-heavy team. That's the style they've been. They were that style under Bill Snyder. They're that style under Chris Kleiman. They're never going to be a team that throws the ball for 400 yards. But I still do think the ceiling on Avery Johnson, I think he will grow as a passer over time. And I still think there's untapped potential there for him, which is why I like where they're headed.
Sam, if we get to the last week of the college football playoff standings, and there are a pretty good chunk of teams that have no losses, and there's only a handful left, no losses, 1 loss, or 2 losses. And we're talking about the FBS, maybe 2 to 3 teams, of course, like Army and Boise State, see what they're doing as well. Washington State, maybe. But if we get to that last meeting with all these guys and the women on that committee, can you see a scenario where a 3-loss team can get in ahead of everybody else that has 2 losses or left? There's 12 teams, so there's a lot. But should that happen?
So those are 2 different questions. Can I see it happening? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I can see it happening. Should it happen? Probably not, but you'd have to look at the resumes at that time. But I will say this. We're already setting up that narrative now with Alabama LSU this week, because you're going to have people say that if Alabama loses to LSU and they're sitting there at 3 losses, they're not going to count them out of the playoff because they're going to say, well, they have that win over Georgia, which is true. It is one of the best wins that anybody has on their resume, and that's going to kind of carry them. So could a 3-loss Alabama get in over a 2-loss Big 12 or ACC team? Honestly, the way this thing has gone in the first 10 years, I'd be surprised if Alabama did get in over a 2-loss ACC or Big 12 team. And that's not to say that I agree with it. I don't. But that's just what the committee has taught us. Look at where BYU is in the ranking. And I know you guys were talking about this earlier this week, and Craig made a point, well, it doesn't matter until if BYU just takes care of business. That's true. But I look at it this way. Why is BYU, who is undefeated, who has wins over 2 top 25 teams, who has a comparable strength of schedule to Penn State. If you go the records of the teams that they've played, it's pretty even with Penn State. Why is Penn State three spots ahead of them, three spots ahead of BYU when they don't have as good of a resume? I don't get it.
And they just lost. And they at home. And I know Ohio State's really good, but it's interesting like that. It's almost like it's as if people don't think that college football can survive a postseason or a playoff if Alabama's not included. The NFL can have Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl with unbelievable ratings without the Cowboys involved the last 27 years or so, right? So you let it play out. Now, their losses to Alabama would be Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and then LSU, and all of them most likely in the top 25. But eventually, you got to win, no matter who you're playing.
That's right.
You got to win games.
Right.
Yeah.
It's who did you beat? That's what I like to know. Who did you beat? And now they did beat Georgia. And so as long as Georgia's in the top 5, that is going to carry them, and it deserves weight. But after that, who else did you beat is my question.
Yeah.
And that's where the Big 12 schools don't get the benefit of the doubt, because none of those schools in the Big 12 are favored nations. They're not helmet schools. They're not big brands in the way that Alabama or Notre Dame or Ohio State or some of these other blue bloods are. And so whether we like it or not, and you know it, go back to 2014, the first year of the playoff, we were debating Ohio State versus TCU and Baylor and who won out. And we were talking about data points and all this. If they had been Ohio State and Texas and Oklahoma, do you think that it would have turned out the same way?
No. If you would take TCU and put Texas on their uniform, or take Baylor and put OU on their uniform, then Ohio State, who did win the championship, they got on the run with Cardell Jones, that they never make that 14 playoff. And that's, I think, where there's a lack of trust. Listen, I get it, and I understand that if everybody in the Big 12 was in the SEC and played the schedule, they probably would have at least a couple more losses a year. But we don't know. We can't just take that for granted. Remember Dewey and Truman? We didn't know. Or Trump and Hillary? We didn't know, right? I mean, we that's why you play the game or whatever. Sam, one more thing.
Could you imagine the NFL if we just said, okay, you guys in the AFC South, you guys only get one team in, but if you're in the AFC North, you're going to get 3.
Yeah, or for about 25 years, you could have 3 teams in the NFC East be in because they dominated the Super Bowls and championships. That's a great point. And that's cyclical. That's another thing about even conferences, that sometimes even those that like, oh my God, they're going to win forever, are going to be cyclical. It's the way it was. It's the way it is. I like what Saban did at Alabama. There's no question what he did was stupid good. But man, eventually, I think sometimes that fans who see logos, and I'm not really complaining about the logos because that's part of why college football is great, but you look at, they lost to so-and-so, and as you said, who have they beaten? Okay, they beat Georgia. Yeah. That's fine. But, I love what you said about the AFC South or it does. The most popular teams in the NFL, they got to win. You got to win to qualify to get into the NFL playoffs. Sam?
And it becomes circular reasoning, because then the SEC and the Big Ten, if only one Big 12 team gets in and then it gets knocked out early, this is going to be used as evidence when the SEC and the Big Ten try to ram through extra automatic bids in the next playoff iteration. When, by the way, a couple of years ago, we had TCU get all the way to the national championship game, even though nobody thought that they could, and nobody gave them really much of a chance against Michigan, and they still did it. All I like to see, doesn't matter to me who wins or loses. I just like access, just a chance, an opportunity on the field to prove it. If Michigan is better, or if Ohio State is better, or if Alabama is better, fine. Let's just find out on the field rather than let's just arbitrarily say, well, you guys aren't good enough because you don't look good enough, and so we're just going to exclude you from the whole thing.
And then if TCU does beat Michigan, and all we hear about is how much Georgia beat the hell out of TCU. It's like that game didn't count. They did beat Michigan, though. Well, yeah, but they got beat 65-7 by Georgia, and most everybody who played Georgia would have been beaten pretty badly by that team. Sam, have a great weekend, buddy. Thanks for your time as always.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Sam Conn, theathletic.com. Love his work. Follow his Twitter feed. Great guy, is on with us in the chat quite a bit too, watching what you all have to say to us on 365 Sports. Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com, recruiting analyst, college football analyst. He's next on 365 Sports. The Baylor Club. The Baylor Club with Mike Mosel, the general manager. A beautiful place for you to enjoy, like tonight. Tonight at the Baylor Club, they're going to have some great food. I've got a picture here. You can't really see it because I'm too far away. Lobster tails. Oh, my God, that looks delicious. On a bed of rice, the Baylor Club has incredible food. Whether it's seafood or whether it's steak, whether it's a buffet line where they might have tenderloin or even prime rib. They're there. And they also have memberships available. Some of the amenities, by the way, at the Baylor Club is not just a place where you can go and have a great meal, but also a place you can host something very important to you, whether it's a banquet like we have every May for academic all-stars in high school or business meetings if you want that too. They just wrapped up what was a Coffee Flights, Sweet Bites, and Trivia Challenge at the Baylor Club. That was on Wednesday evening. Coming up, there's going to be some tasting again. They always are trying to get you to taste their new food with the chefs that they have at the Baylor Club. It's a wonderful place. The next home game is not till the end of November. It's a great place to be on game day or any day, any night. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium.
Now been a part of about, 5 or 6, 7 auctions, live auctions online. TexasBeefHouse.com. Their Angus cattle, the ranch just outside of Tyler, the Wagyu beef that they make available. And the best part of it is you get to buy whatever you want for how much you want to pay each month, sometimes once or twice. In this month in October, 3 live auctions. So I sent Aaron Duvall and Samantha Duvall this text. I've learned the auction game. Finally wore somebody else out to get some great-looking ribeyes and fillets. And Aaron Duvall responded, the owner of TexasBeefHouse.com and the Duvall Ranch. I heard you were after them. Congratulations. Appreciate all you do for our company. It's easy. TexasBeefHouse.com is fantastic. Farm-raised from start to finish. Angus cattle, Wagyu beef, and it's not just the steaks, but brisket and tri-tip and roast, hamburger patties. And each auction provides some other opportunity for you to get what you want and pay what you want. Not a sticker that is on a package of steaks or whatever inside of a store. I was so excited. I got an immediate text that said, and if anyone tried to outbid me, I would know. And then I got an immediate text and then an email. Paid. Bid on Beef is who runs the live auctions for TexasBeefHouse.com. Get what you want and pay what you want. And if the price gets too high in an auction, walk away. Get it next time at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford. Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House
house-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Grayson Grudhafer, Sicken365.com, recruiting analyst, keeps up with all of that. Also, his thoughts, opinions on Baylor and college football, joins us on 365 Sports. Grayson, if Baylor was having a pretty nice run with the class of 2025, and there was that topic of, but can they hold it together if, in fact, Aranda does not survive? Well, now it's can they add to it, in my opinion, now that they've gotten on a run. They still have work to do. Is there any more uptick with the class that they already have pretty much committed?
Definitely. I mean, there's still plenty of time to make this class even better than what it has been. And I mean, it's already been really, really good so far. And obviously there was so much momentum this offseason just from, just kind of everyone, I think, seeing the results on the recruiting trail. I think that was just really positive during the offseason. I think it gave people a lot of hope for the season. And then obviously you kind of look into it and it's like, oh, the season has started poorly. What's going to happen with the class? What's going to happen with the coaching staff? And obviously that's kind of subsided a little bit. There's still work to do, but at 5-4, coming off 3 wins over your 3 biggest recruiting rivals, at least in my eyes, Oklahoma State, Tech, and TCU, you got to be feeling good, with where Baylor is at now. And you're right. I mean, this weekend was a big weekend for Baylor. They had a lot of visitors on campus, including pretty much all the commits. Not every single one was able to make it, but a lot were able to. They also had guys who are, committed to other schools. They had guys in the 2025 class who they're just still kind of targeting right now. And then obviously the 2026 class was also a big focal point during the visit. So lots of work to do in 2025 still. I wouldn't say that I think they're going to take, a ton more guys in this class, but I do think there is room to maybe add, somewhere around 4 to 5 guys as the class finishes. And I think as you'll see going forward through this month and then of course into December, I think Baylor will probably get an official visit date somewhere during that December time period to try to solidify the class, get guys committed before the early signing day period, and then of course try to lock in the class, for that early signing day, so you don't really have to worry about much when it comes to the second signing day.
What happened with Jonte Cook with UT, in your opinion, or what you've learned, and is Baylor going to be involved in him as a transfer?
So it certainly seems like there's probably a mixture of rumors, opinions, and speculation kind of on what has happened there. I think ultimately he was dealing with injuries. I don't think Texas handled that situation very well. But I also think that there was something to the fact that Texas has a bunch of really good receivers as well. And so I think it was just one of those situations where, a guy gets dinged up and then other guys pass him. And then it feels like, there's not a path, towards playing time. And it also feels like maybe the coaching staff has kind of not moved on from you, but kind of have their attention elsewhere. And for a guy like Jonte Cook, that's a really talented football player. And, when he was coming out of DeSoto, he was the top receiver in the state for his class, one of the best prospects in that class as well, a true 5-star prospect. And a guy that Baylor had a lot of interest in. It just simply came down to the fact they weren't going to be able to land someone of that quality at that time. But I think since then things have changed a little bit. And you got to remember, these 5-star guys who go to these big schools, especially in today's day and age, they're getting compensated really well when it comes to NIL. So that means that, for some guys, NIL is not going to be the most important driving factor at the next stop. It's going to be about, development, production, finding a path to the NFL. Those things at times I think are going to matter more than the NIL money, because you already got quite a bit, when you originally went there. So I think Baylor's definitely going to be involved. I would say, I think right now the momentum feels like it's trending towards Oregon initially.
Yep.
But it's very beginning here. You know what I mean? This is the very beginning of his recruitment. And I think Baylor will definitely recruit him. But I think Oregon is the favorite at the moment.
Well, and I mean, Oregon knows his talent. And the other thing is that what UT is going to add 2 or 3 more great players at wide receiver during the signing day, and they'll get what they want most likely in the transfer portal. And Jonte may have looked up with what they already have and said, man, I'm pretty good, but I may never really get the opportunities that I want. So the coaches, I think, right, have been on the road this week with it being an off week, because I've been able to trade a text with 1 or 2 of them, and it seems like they're out looking about, going to games, whatever they can possibly do.
Right. Yeah, it's that's the commonplace during the bye week. So the coaches are out looking at prospects. Going to games really is kind of the big thing. So a few coaches were out at games last night, and then a few more will be out there tonight. So they're just going to look kind of all around, whether it's 2026 prospects or 2025. But I actually think it feels like the focal point, at least during this bye week, has actually been the 2026 class as far as guys that they've gone and looked at. Obviously, they've gone and seen all the 2025 guys through, various times during this year. And a lot of them were obviously on campus this weekend. So I think this gave them a chance to go look around and go see some of their top priority guys, as far as, guys who are, still out there in the 2026 class. And that's kind of what they're doing during the bye week. And that's been, again, the commonplace for Baylor during these bye weeks, is to really take advantage of it for recruiting purposes.
What would, and there are the big names in his list of Final 6, what would landing someone like a London Smith for next year mean to Baylor, if that's possible?
It would be massive, and it absolutely is possible. He was at the game over the weekend, and continues to be a guy that, Baylor has spent a lot of time recruiting him. And, I think there's been a lot of times, kind of arguments about, why hasn't Baylor landed this local product, or why hasn't Baylor been able to land this guy? And I think for the most part, there have been some that Baylor's recruited really heavily, and it just was one of those things that just at the end of the day didn't really have a chance, to land them, because, some guys just don't want to go to Baylor. You know what I mean? But I think for London, it's been a little bit different. I think with him, there's been a huge emphasis by the staff on trying to land him and keep him home. I think he's shown plenty of interest by how many times he's visited Baylor. I just think that there's something there for sure, as far as the relationship and the connection, and then watching Baylor play well and get very explosive offensively, especially at the wide receiver position. I think that's going to be very intriguing as well. Ultimately, it's going to be a race to the finish. There's a lot of really good schools on its list. I think a lot of people, it feels like a lot of people are leaning towards, A&M being the early favorite for him. But I think Baylor's done a really good job recruiting him, and they've put themselves in a really good spot to potentially land him. And it'd be huge, especially to land a local kid like that who's got the offer list that he does, got the attention that he does, and of course has the talent that London does as well.
Can I ask you about Josh Cameron? He is now not only a possession receiver, a weapon on punt returns, a big body, and someone who has had to go through the walk-on process to where he is now. What was his status coming out of high school?
Oh, he was, he might have been a 2-star, but I think he was pretty much unranked. And the offer list wasn't insane. And, it was one of those things where he was just highly productive in high school. He was extremely productive at Cedar Park, but he just didn't get a lot of attention. And, he didn't get offers. He got walk-on offers, but didn't get any offers from, Power 5 schools. I don't even think he got any Group of 5 schools offered either. So I think it was just one of those things where, he showed up at Baylor ready to work. And, when you're as productive as he was, it just becomes a matter of, can your athleticism either get better or can it translate? And I think that's been the biggest thing for him. His athleticism is translated, but then also he does all the little things, right? He's probably the best blocking receiver that they have. He's really good on special teams, very reliable. He's a leader for this team as well. And then he also is pretty sure-handed. Like, the guy just makes tough catches, and he just makes the easy catches as well, which is very important. But, yeah, he's had a phenomenal year. He's got 7 touchdown receptions, which is top 15 in the nation. He leads the nation in punt return yards. He's been really, really good for Baylor and just one of their most consistent weapons this season. And it's been great to see. And, credit to everyone who played a part in his recruitment. And I know for walk-ons, a lot of that was David Wetzel, early on. I know he's got a different position now, but Wetzel was big in the walk-on department. And I think this is one of those really good hidden gems that the staff was able to find and get on campus.
His mama is on the chat room. She watches the show. He was a 0-star coming out of high school. And, of course, earlier this week, the news about the Burlsworth Trophy for the best player who began his career as a walk-on. It's been a great story. All right, last thing, and I know you got to go, and we do too. They moved Huard to left tackle. I had a couple of coaches tell me that his athleticism has allowed them to make some other things happen on the offensive line. And that's something Mason Miller has to get credit for that. They're running the ball better, giving the backside protection to Sawyer. Why would that it was when they did that, when they made that move, Grayson, why do you think they did it? Did they think it would work as well as it has?
I think the first place you start is the left tackle position was just frankly not playing well.
Yeah.
Whether it was Caden Siraki or Alvin Abasele, it just was not working the way that they needed it to. They were giving up too much, with either one. So it was like Alvin was really struggling in pass protection. That's still an area he really needs to develop in. And then Caden was not the run blocker that Alvin was. And so it was like, can we mesh these two guys together? How do we figure this out? Dave Aranda mentioned that in one of his early press conferences. We're getting this from one of them and this from the other, but we need both of them. We need both of those parts. And I think that's where Huard came in. And, Huard in limited snaps actually struggled a little bit early on in the season, but he's just gotten better and better as he's gotten more comfortable. Then, of course, he took over the full-time left tackle position after the bye week, and things have just been rolling. And I think part of it is his athleticism. I think part of it is his experience. He's an older guy. He's played a lot of football. I think that's a big part of it as well. And then I think, honestly, his size. He provides something very unique with how big he is. He's the biggest offensive lineman that they have starting by a lot. And I think that size and strength combination matched with his experience and athleticism has really translated. And you really see it in the run game. Like, he starts wearing on people. And it has been awesome to see. He really struggled last year at South Carolina. And a lot of South Carolina fans were saying, no big deal losing Huard. Like, he's not very good. I saw that. A lot of that reaction when Baylor landed him. And now you look at it now, and it's like he's completely changed Baylor's offensive line this year. I think he's added more stability there. And then, of course, added some upside as well. It's been really fun to watch. And the cool thing is he's got another year. So Baylor may have him back a year from now and someone who can really solidify their left tackle spot for a couple of years.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that bookend on the left side especially. Thanks for your time, Grayson. Have a great weekend. Grayson Grundhafer, 365 Sports, and also Sikkim365.com with some good stuff on recruiting and also a couple of the nuggets about Baylor, in fact, right now. John Beck played in the NFL, played at BYU, heck of a player. He now, excuse me, I know we had the cough button. I'm still getting used to that. Has credited for what's happening with Jake Retzloff, the quarterback at BYU, and others. He is next. John Beck, next on 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. They have a live auction tomorrow. Starts at 1 o'clock. If you're able to make it to the ranch in person, they will have lunch provided. It's just outside of Tyler, by the way, starting at noon. If you're not able to make it in person, you could still place bids online like they've been doing 2 and 3 times a month. Like I've won or been able to win a bid 3 or 4 times with great stakes. Bidonbeef.com. Nationwide, free nationwide delivery on all beef sold. I have won in the auction. My bids have been high and I've kept them. I have the product sitting outside of my front door at the condo when I go home after the show on a Tuesday evening. 750 pounds of prime Wagyu beef available for the purchase tomorrow. 750 pounds. Each lot of beef will average about 10 pounds apiece. All beef sold by the pound. Visit their website for more information, texasbeefhouse.com or bidonbeef.com. Tomorrow, live at the Duval Ranch, just outside of Tyler, or on texasbeefhouse.com. Don't forget, use 365 Sports and get a discount on your first $100 of product and also delivery.
Announcing Genco's Car Hugger Special. Right now, refinance your auto loan at Genco and get 3 months of no car payments. Plus, your loan will be automatically entered for a chance to win your next 3 car payments on us. Enjoy 5.19% for 48 months and then skip your payments until 2025. Subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Well, I'm flying. It's a Smoak solo today. Craig is out. Paul is out. I'm here with Garrett Ross, Emery Winter. We're in the studio, and we'll be here until 6 o'clock. We'll hear from former BYU quarterback John Beck momentarily, Mickey Spagnola, Brock Huard from Fox Sports, and Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach, also a part of our schedule over the next couple of weeks. One note, by the way, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, they're going to have their annual, what they call Turkey Torture and Membership Appreciation Breakfast. The day after Thanksgiving, they'll have turkey, mashed potatoes, and all the desserts. They do this every year, the day after Thanksgiving, a Friday schedule throughout the morning where they will have one class instructor after another. Several instructors starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, the day after Thanksgiving. And no, they don't want you there just so you can puke your guts out from what you stuffed yourself with the day before, just to kind of get yourself back. Different classes, different teaching styles, different personalities. There's also a kids club available for you if you have children and you want them to be watched and babysat, monitored while you are in the middle of what you're doing with the annual turkey torture and membership appreciation breakfast. I have my turkey ready in the deep freeze. I also have a deboned jambalaya with crawfish and shrimp turducken. Now, I'm not eating all that myself. Don't even think about it. But I will eat the heck out of that for 3 or 4 days after I put it in the oven or the smoker or both. That I do very, very, very early on Thanksgiving morning. So we'll have that for you on Friday, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. All the trainers will be involved with that turkey the day after Thanksgiving torture. That's what it is. I'm telling you, like, go there so you can get tortured because you just stuffed yourself throughout the day on Thanksgiving, which is just around the corner. Garrett, no. John Beck?
No.
All right,
no
let's do this. Let's call an audible here. You want to call Mickey and see if he can come on now?
Yeah, let me do that. Hang on.
And then if he can, then we'll move John Beck back to later in the hour. But we got a packed schedule. We have a little bit of a buffer at 4:45 today. There's not a guest schedule, so that gives us a buffer. No reason for us not to try to do that. And then if we get John Beck, we get John Beck. So Brock Huard, I love his style. Good football player at University of Washington. He covers the heck out of the Seattle Seahawks, of course, right there in his backyard. But I really enjoy his analysis when he does college football games for Fox, and he's got the Texas Tech-Colorado game coming up, of course, tomorrow afternoon. I saw, and I know that, let me see here. I saw a note from Matt Leinart, the former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. See if I can pull that up. From USC, who's now a part of that Fox, that big noon kickoff. Here's the tweet that he had from earlier today. I think earlier today. Let me see here. Where is it? This is from earlier today. Worst travel day I've been a part of and got a little dicey last night flying through the skies of Texas. But I made it. Lubbock, what's good? Delayed in Denver for 2 hours. Diverted to Midland because of a storm in Lubbock, even though it doesn't look like it. And now can't get off the plane until maybe 5 a.m. because there's no TSA. Awful travel day brought to you by United. I saw Tim Brando mention that he had to take an early morning flight for a game that he's going out to cover Boise State. So a pretty hectic travel day for quite a few people. Garrett, let's break here. Come back. We'll try to see if we can get Mickey and or John Beck. Heck, let's try to get both of them at the same time just to create even more chaos if we possibly can. On the, and I know, you're right, Dustin. His son committed to play at SMU earlier in the week. It's David Smoak. Let's see. Smokey put some Frank's hot sauce on that jambalaya. I make a damn good jambalaya.
You do make a damn good jambalaya.
And you're a Cajun.
I love it.
You're a GEAUX Go Tigers
All
Louisiana
day.
Dude, right?
All day.
My jambalaya is damn good.
It is damn good. I'll give you that. And
it
your
is
gumbo.
Damn good. And the gumbo's not bad either. Such a long problem. Gumbo, just like you ruin the kitchen when you do something like that. Jambalaya, I've got that down pretty pat. Let's see what we can find with Mickey, John Beck, Brock Huard at 5 from Fox. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. They have, of course, a Black Friday sales event coming up. The 2024 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. removable 3-piece hardtop, removable doors, dual zone front air conditioner, 5-passenger seating, 22-gallon fuel tank, up to $10,990 off MSRP. Also, front suspension lift, 1-inch Fox shock, Dana 44 axles, 2024 Jeep Gladiator Mojave, up to $10,990 off MSRP. The 2024 Chrysler Pacifica Touring L, up to $8,200 off MSRP. And then the 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Rubicon, 4xe 4xe Rubicon. 10-color option for many of the customizable options. Charge at home overnight. It's a hybrid. $12,000 MSRP. Ask about the available tax incentives up to $7,500. America's best and most capable plug-in hybrid. Alan Samuels with David Gray, General Sales Manager. Ted Teague, GM and CEO. Alan Samuels, throughout the month of November and Black Friday sales event, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
There's another one.
Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. And for the rest of October, buy any new Jeep and get the Jeep Wave program, which includes 2 oil changes, 2 tire rotations, good for 2 years from the date of purchase. Each Wrangler has a trail-rated badge, indicating that the vehicle has passed a series of off-road tests capable of handling tough terrain. These tests include off-road traction, maneuverability, articulation, ground clearance, and water fording. Ram Power Days heating up and has throughout, all year. But this month of October at Alan Samuels in Waco, scary good deals on over 300 new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get a demo 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab 4x4 for $16,000 off MSRP. Get 0.9% financing for 72 months on any in-stock 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab or Quad Cab. How about the Sky One Touch on a Wrangler, offering the major benefit of being able to easily open and close a large portion of the roof with just a push of a button, providing convenient way to enjoy open-air driving while the weather is still so nice, while quickly adapting to changing weather conditions without needing to pull over, manually adjust the top, essentially combining the openness of a soft top with the ease of a hard top, making it perfect for those who want maximum versatility in their Wrangler experience. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We will hear from Mickey Spagnola here in a moment. We have him, Mickey Spagnola, with us, DallasCowboys.com on 365 Sports. Mickey, thank you very much for your time. I just brought up some Cajun food. I love to cook Cajun food. And my question for you is, you've been to New Orleans many times. That's where the Super Bowl is this year. What is your favorite food, one meal? If you could have one meal in New Orleans, what would it be?
Do I get an appetizer of fresh oysters?
No, we have to start with fresh oysters. Absolutely. That doesn't even count towards the meal.
I would say one thing. Boy, that's hard, David. That's really hard. Because I try to get like a combination of three things, right? So my combo platter at one of my favorite places would be a soft shell crab po' boy, red beans and rice, and jambalaya.
Man, just anything. That's what it's hard to separate jambalaya from gumbo to soft crab to anything. And of course, what's the name of the restaurant in the hotel that has the oysters that are that they put the butter on it or whatever on the top and cheese?
Oh, there's a lot of places now. They all caught on to that.
Good. That's good. That means we get to not have to stand in line for an hour. Okay, Mick. Philadelphia.
And I even made those down, David.
You did
on the grill.
You
the
did?
Oysters on the grill.
Yeah. You know what's so cool is when you do that and you have a little bit of that butter or whatever you might have drop off the edges and it flames up and you get the charbroiled feel to it. Oh, man. All right. Philadelphia's in town. They're playing well. I know they have drama sometimes with the situation involving Sirianni and whatever else, but it seems like they kind of got some things going right now. What's going on with them? What's different than maybe when they were hit and miss?
Yeah, I think that they're really consistently running the football. Saquon Barkley has nearly been unstoppable. He's rushed for at least 113 yards in all 8 games. He's got 925. Do the math on that. Double that, and then add a game, and he's getting close to 2,000. So he's been really, really good. He's coming off a performance that earned him NFC Offensive Player of the Week at 199 yards from scrimmage in this past game. Now, there's a little caveat here. The 4-game winning streak, they've beaten teams 2-7, 2-7, 2-7, and now 4-6 after Cincinnati lost last week. So they started off 2-2. That schedule that they just got to play was significantly softer than what the Cowboys have dealt with during this 3-game losing streak.
Do you feel, well, no, the Cowboys have had themselves, no question, a battering ram, and now they have Philly. Then they have the Texans, who are pretty good, and then who knows where the Commanders will be in a couple of 3 weeks, and they're playing pretty well, too, with a lot of confidence. Obviously, this Dak Prescott thing, it's been one of those years, and now all of a sudden, did I see correctly that part of his hamstring pulled off the damn bone?
Well, they're calling it an avulsion of the hamstring, and that means that there's either a tear in there or it is the tendon, the hamstring tendon that attaches to the bone may have a slight tear in there, and they're going to have to decide if they're going to treat it or if he's going to have surgery. If he decides surgery, and my understanding is that's not what he wants to do. He wants to play, but surgery would mean out for the season. And, they can delay it and say, okay, let's see if it heals with treatment and whatever, and maybe you get back sometime after Thanksgiving. But, yeah, it's not good. And so, all the other stuff that they've had to deal with, all the Pro Bowl guys that either haven't been playing or still on injured reserve, and then this. It just seems to be one thing after another.
Am I wrong to suggest that it seems like when players, Dak never missed practices, never was out of training camp. CD, we know, missed time. But it just seems like when you get these big contracts, you always know that there's the possibility of injury. That it just seems like something seems to happen. Not to all of them, but it just seems like it happens. And it's unfortunate because we know he wants to play.
Well, I can give you two instances when it happened. Go back to 2015. Des Bryant signed his new contract long-term, right? Big signing bonus. First game of the season, he fractured his fifth metatarsal in his foot. And I can take you back to 1995 when the Cowboys were playing a Monday night game at New York. The night before the game, Kevin Smith signed his new contract, long-term, big signing bonus, and then he suffers I think it was a Achilles strain, like the first quarter of the season, first game. So, yeah, you got a good point there.
All right, so they're falling under 500. That's where they are. The schedule does not get any easier. When is it must-win time? Is it now? Was it last week? When is it?
Well, I think I was asked that question earlier about the next 4 games. What do they need to do? I said, well, ideally, you would like to go 3-1 and at least get to 500. If you can hang in there at 2-2, but then you're still 2 games below 500. Then I think you're at the point of must win, because we got to see how this stuff plays out. Washington, Philadelphia, I have to stay in some of the more difficult have already played. And they get to say something about it. But again, it's like they're playing with one hand tied behind their back. No Deron Bland. Now they should get Micah Parsons back in this game on a limited basis, probably more in a pass rush situation. DeMarcus Lawrence is still out. Marshawn Nealon, who moved into a starting spot at defensive end with those other 2 guys out. He maybe returns around Thanksgiving. I mentioned Lawrence. They just had Brandon Cooks is still out. They just can't seem to catch a break, and now you lose Dak. And I understand that Cooper Rush, the last time he had to play, he went 4-1. But I did notice that the Cowboy defense during that stretch in 2022 was playing considerably better than what it is right now. As a matter of fact, the games he won, the 4 he won, the defense, the whole team, held their opponents to 17 points, 16 points, 10, and 10. That ain't happening, this 4-game stretch, right?
No,
and then the one game they lost, it was to Philadelphia, and they gave up 26 points. So Cooper Rush can play, but gosh, you can't ask him to put up 30 points a game the way it seems they've had to do to be able to win.
Mickey Spagnola at DallasCowboys.com with us. What happened with the Zeke Elliott story? Was it communication issue? Was he getting a little bit annoyed that Dalvin Cook being brought up or activated? What happened there?
Yeah, my understanding is the way they had practiced early in the week that he wasn't. They didn't plan on having him active, and I'm sure he's a very proud guy, and that when he found that out, it was like, well, I ain't going to the game and sit on the bench and wearing tennis shoes. I mean, he's never had to do that, right? And so I think that precipitated either being late for meetings or not showing up. So they just decided, all right, stay home. You don't need to go to the game. You weren't going to be active anyway. And then this week, it's like, okay, he's back in practice. He's getting reps. I'm sure he's going to have a role in the game on Sunday. Yeah, I don't think it had much to do with Delvin Cook because they could keep three guys active, three running backs active. Deuce was going to be the one that was going to be inactive, and then that kind of fell apart. So yeah, let's see what happens going forward. But he didn't talk in the locker room this week, and I sort of don't blame him. But again, it's one of those we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah,
because it's not like Delvin Cook is, lit the place up on fire, right?
No. Their best running back has been, oh my God, I just went blank.
Rico.
Dowdell. Yeah, he's been kind of running hard and has given them at times a little bit of a lift. All right, so on the Dak Prescott thing, there's a game Sunday. If they don't place him on injured reserve and they play that game, does he then have to wait 4 more games to be active?
If they don't place him on injured reserve?
Yeah, I don't think they have yet, have they?
No, they have not.
Okay.
And they're trying to decide how they're going to handle it.
Okay.
I mean, and here's the deal. You got to have 7 guys inactive, right? And they don't have, 7 guys that have to be down because of injury. So, if you need a roster spot, if you're bringing in a guy now, the guy's probably not going to be active in the game anyway, right? So it doesn't really force their hand to say, okay, he's got to go on IR. He could just be with them and just be inactive on game day. So, but if you do put him on IR, then it has to be 4 games. And it's not like baseball where you can do it retroactive to when the injury occurred.
Okay. All right, Mickey, one more thing, and thanks for your time. They're losing. They're trying to figure out a way to win. I thought maybe they would, like in Pittsburgh, remember I told you about when they go on the road. San Francisco was nice, and then all of a sudden, bad start to the second half. Philadelphia's coming in. We know how powerful they are, although not perfect, and they've got some of their own injuries. If, in fact, this slide continues for another week or 2, I'm not one that calls for anyone to be fired. Unless someone's been fired, then they would understand that's just kind of, at times, part of the business. We get it, but it's not always easy, that speculation. Do you see any scenario in the next 2 or 3 weeks if they keep losing where it becomes a distraction with Mike McCarthy's future?
I don't see that. Number one, there's nobody on the staff, I think, that they think is a ready-made, future head coach, right? I just don't see it. Number two, I don't know firing the coach is going to shake up the team. Like, okay, now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play better. Well, if you fire the coach and the next guy can lay hands on some of these injured guys, then by all means, get them in here, right? Because a lot of what's going on is precipitated by the number of injuries that they've tried to overcome. I look back to what happened in 2010 when Wade Phillips got fired. It was 1-7. They had gotten beat at Green Bay by 38 points, and that team was done. They weren't listening. They weren't paying attention. And he promoted Jason Garrett, and suddenly they went 5-3. So that one somewhat worked, but Garrett was always going to be the next head coach anyway. So you just kind of said, okay, we need to make a change. But I just don't see firing the coach is going to turn the season around. And who's going to be, if you fire the coach, you're firing the offensive coordinator too, right?
Mm.
And, next guy's up is Brian Schottenheimer. But again, he's part of the offense, what's going on right now. Mike's not just doing it all himself. He's calling the plays. So, yeah, it's kind of, I just don't see it happening that it would help matters. Because if they lose 3 more games and are on a 6-game losing streak, the only thing that I could see shaking things up would be maybe you take a look at Trey Lance. and see what he can do. I've seen people already throwing in the towel and saying, well, you might as well go and play him, see what you got. Well, he's on the final year of his contract, and I don't know that he can do enough in a couple games to change your mind on if you keep him or if you don't keep him next year. What I think they could do, and Jerry kind of suggested this today, is maybe you put a package in for him, short yardage, use his ability to run the ball that he did pretty well on those preseason games. Until that last one, when he threw, I don't know, what did he throw, 20 interceptions or something? I think it was 5. It looked like he was manageable. He was getting it. He was starting not to stare down his receivers. He was getting the ball out, and then all of a sudden that happened. But in the meantime, he showed what he could do with his legs. So maybe you start a package with him and use him as a running threat to, the defense something else to think about. But again, if they think he's only going to run, then you're probably not going to have much success.
All right, Mick, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yes.
Mickey Spagnola, Sunday Cowboys and Eagles. And Kellen Moore, former Cowboys offensive coordinator, is, of course, coming to town. That could be a little bit interesting with what he would like to show with what he's got at Philadelphia. We're now joined by former BYU quarterback and NFL quarterback John Beck joins us on 365 Sports. John, great to see you, man. Thanks for your time, and appreciate you making time for us, too, and glad you're available. What does the Holy War, when I bring up BYU, Utah, mean to you?
Well, that's cool that we got people now in the Big 12 Conference knowing what the Holy War is. A lot of the times that was just for, those of us on the West Coast, kind of in the area. I mean, look, it's a big game. I didn't grow up in the state of Utah. I grew up in Arizona for the ASU U of A rivalry. But as soon as you get to BYU, as soon as you get to the state, you realize very quickly how important this game is to the state. The state is divided, point of the mountain, pretty much. You turn that point of the mountain, things start turning red. And for all those Cougar fans that live up in Salt Lake, it can be tough times if you're not winning some of those ball games. And so it means a lot to everybody involved, and it makes for a great game. I enjoyed my time in the game. Those heated games, those big-time rivalries, they're so fun to be a part of, especially when things go well.
Why is Jake Retzloff performing as maybe better than most people expected, except maybe you, because you work with him?
Well, he worked extremely hard this offseason. He got to play those handful of games last year. It was his first time, in the offense, and it didn't go the way that he would have liked. But, that's a great motivator as you head into an offseason. Knowing you're getting an opportunity, things don't go as good as you would have hoped, you're fired up. And the guy took advantage of every opportunity he had to improve on his game, to really take a hard look at himself and say, if I want to win this quarterback competition, if I want to lead this team, what are the areas that I need to improve? And he was focused on those things, and he's a good leader. He's a genuine guy. People gravitate towards that type of personality, and he's done a great job of leading the BYU team this year in the way that he's playing.
John, he also had the competition with, we all know Gary Bohannon very, very well. Did not work at USF. He was injured, but he had his last year at Baylor was phenomenal in 2021. How much did it help that he had competition pushing him, but also someone in Gary Bohannon that didn't make it any kind of drama? They just went at each other in a great way.
Well, Gary's as good of a dude as you're going to find. Has a great story, great work ethic. I loved my time working with Gary as well. And look, he was improving, and he was making a run for it. And I think that does help when you kind of feel that, and you know that you're going to be in a dogfight and you're going to have to be at your very best. That really prepares you for a season. It prepares you for tough games. It prepares you to take advantage of opportunities. And so, look, I'm always rooting for Gary. I don't know what the future holds for him, but he was a great teammate, a great quarterback. He's done everything just stand up at his time at BYU. And I do think it helped Jake to have somebody of that caliber, also somebody as driven. You look at the sacrifices the guy made, the decision that he made to come to school, BYU, having already had stops at other places. Like, that means he's determined, he's sacrificed, he's willing, he's doing all of those things. How do you beat out a person like that? How do you go into a competition and perform your best and prove that you're better? Man, you got to put your work hat on, and that's what Jake did. And both guys, I'm sure, will say we made each other better.
Last year was a tough year for Kalani Sitake and BYU. We've had him on this show many times ever since the announcement. Well, they were going to play Baylor, and what was it, 2021 anyway, and then all the stuff with realignment, they would be a part of the Big 12. They have been a huge surprise. Maybe not for themselves, but they, along with a few other programs, this Big 12 seems to be, pick somebody down below, they're going to probably surprise you. It's a crazy conference, a fun conference. Why are they better in your opinion?
Well, going back to when things don't go the way that you want. They came into this season, nobody was thinking they were going to do anything. I think the Vegas line was like 4.8 wins. They're not even giving them a full 5 wins. They're saying you're not going to be bowl eligible. I think the taste in their mouth from the previous season, that season last year had high expectations. And then it felt like things fell apart, right? And people were pointing fingers. Oh, it's the O-line. It's this, it's that. It really takes a man and a team when you take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and you say, what do we really need to improve on? And then you get to work. I had the opportunity to be around some of those guys throughout the offseason, and they were always working. And the belief, they weren't going to believe what everybody was telling them they were. And I love that about teams. I love that about players. When you say, go ahead and say what you want, but this is what we're going to believe about ourselves. Now, the one thing I will say also, I don't think anybody could have predicted an undefeated season. I think the players on the team, what I like is when you are being told you're at the bottom, you're not going to worry about the final outcome. What you're going to do is you're going to take things one day at a time, one game at a time. You're not going to go try to get 8 wins at the snap of a finger. You're going to say, all right, you guys are counting us out. We're going to go get this win. And then we're going to get the next win. And how do we get there? It's each day in practice. I think this team showed that this year, that they took everything just one day, one game at a time. And now they're standing here atop the Big 12, undefeated, and all of that is paid off. And now what they got to do is just stay the course. Keep to that same process, no matter how big of a game it is, no matter if it's the Holy War, no matter if you're playing a team at the bottom, right? Like there's some Kansas teams, some other teams they play coming up that aren't as high. But look what happened last weekend.
Yep.
Look at the teams in the Big 12 that went and upset teams that weren't supposed to get upset. Like, to me, this conference, you said it, it's fun. It's exciting. Who's going to win this game? Nobody knows. And it's every week. So BYU's got to stick to that process that got them here for the remainder games.
Yeah, and they've had a couple of where they've had to take a deep breath. The late touchdown pass to win a game. Against Oklahoma State. Houston beat K-State. Iowa State at home loses to Tech. It's been a lot of fun. So you were a part of a hell of an ending, excuse my language, against Utah in 2006 with the last-second touchdown. What was that like? Can you take us back to that memory?
Yeah, it's funny. Every year, whenever BYU plays Utah, the week of the BYU-Utah game, I know there's going to be some interviews. I know there's going to be people, hey, remind us of that play. What were you thinking? Similar to this Cougar team, the 2005 game didn't go the way that I would have liked. And to have an opportunity in the 2006 game with a little over a minute left, and we were able to drive the ball all the way down the field. A lot of my teammates made some really key plays, and it put us in a position with a little over 3 seconds left to have one final shot at the end zone. And it kind of turned into a backyard play of just, playground style football. And we found a way to win the game. And it was the coolest moment of my life to have a game end and then just get to celebrate with the teammates and feel that feeling of like pandemonium on a football field. Like in a second, there was cameras, I'm getting interviewed, like I'm just barely starting to celebrate with my teammates, and it is just this flood of people on the field. It was one of the coolest, most exhilarating moments of my life in sports, to just have everything on the line, have it go your way, and you're just pure pandemonium with your teammates and fans. It was a really cool experience.
And it was at Utah, and
it was.
I want to think that you may have had 10 seconds, no pressure, and then you rolled to your right, went back to the left, almost like a no-look pass. That had to be just – it literally seemed like you had – like Jaden Daniels about 2 weekends ago on that Hail Mary, where he seemed like he had forever to throw that ball. It was almost like, oh, my God, I got to get rid of it. But you didn't have to, because there was not really much pressure on you.
Yeah, you know what? Lessons learned from previous experiences. You grow and you learn as a quarterback from what you've been through. And I felt prepared for that moment of I'm going to use my legs. I'm going to buy as much time possible. And, the cool thing about that play is everybody is involved. Every person and the decision that they made to run the way that they did, to cut the way that they did, for Johnny Harline, the tight end that caught the ball, to stay where he did. Everybody's involved. My linemen for being able to see that I'm turning back and coming the other way. And you see them go hunt out the guy that's chasing me. You see them stick to somebody else. All 11 guys and the decisions that they made in that moment, we all affected each other. It's really cool to be remembered for that play. I know me and the tight end are the one that get remembered a lot, but it's everybody and what they all put into that play. And quite honestly, that play in that game meant a lot for our entire team, our entire program, because that senior class had been through a lot in previous years, a lot of downs, this climb back up. And I think that's why seasons like this are so special for me to watch, because I thoroughly just enjoy that the players get to have that experience. These very same guys were a part of last year's team. These very same guys were told you're not going to be a very good team this year. And so I love in athletics when you're given that opportunity just to believe within yourself, to go to work and to just push and grind. And then when a moment comes for an opportunity to strike and have something big happen, you strike. It's just awesome.
You're a part of that elite biometrics training. What is it? 3D QB.
3D QB. Yep.
Yeah. Tom House, I know the baseball history with him and how he also worked with quarterbacks, but also with pitchers. Adam and others. Taylor Kelly. This seems to be like I've seen the workouts that Patrick Mahomes goes through during the off seasons to look at every possible scenario, spinning away or whatever. It seems like you guys are doing a heck of a job, and a lot of people know what you do. How fun is it to work with other quarterbacks?
Well, thank you for your kind words. Patrick's not one of our guys, but he does train in a similar way with a guy that he trains with. And, for me as a former player, during my playing days, you're always looking at a competitive advantage. You're always trying to find a way to improve. And, the connections that I made with coaches and people outside of my team is what landed me in this space. And I loved being part of this innovative approach to quarterbacking, of trying to utilize all the science, all the data, everything that we have to improve biomechanics, to improve footwork, to improve all aspects of the quarterback position, and even the mental and emotional. After my time in the NFL, I went back to school and earned a couple graduate degrees in the mental and emotional side of things. And so just everything that entails quarterback development. And I know there's a lot of guys across the country. They're in this space. A lot of people do a great job as well. It's a fun space to be in because you get to be personable with the players, right? When they're on their team and they have their staff, they have the things that they're doing there. And when they come in the off season and they grab all of that and they say, here's where I need to improve. Can we integrate all of these things? And then we sometimes have great relationship with the coaching staffs. And then we work together with them of how can we help this player be the absolute best player he can be. I love helping people try to achieve their dreams. My dream was to be an NFL quarterback and have it go successful. And, came close. Things didn't work out like I wanted. But I love the opportunity to help others chase their dreams to be the best they can be.
Well, you've done a great job with that. All right, I have to ask you this because I interviewed Tom House a couple of times when he was with the Rangers. That's an individual that I had to really intently kind of listen to.
That's Tom. Yeah, that's Tom.
That's a different animal right there. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you got to cut through. You got to cut through all of the other stuff and find the information. Yeah, that's him.
No question. You mentioned the NFL. You were drafted out of college. You were a second-round pick. What was that experience like? As you mentioned, it wasn't quite what you wanted, but my God, you were drafted by Miami. You played with Washington, Baltimore, among others. What was it like, though, to have that opportunity in that time in the NFL?
Well, it was a dream come true, right? As a little kid running around on the streets in Mesa, Arizona, the parks, all that, you grow up wanting to be an NFL player. So it was very cool to have my name called on draft day. I was super excited to become a Miami Dolphin. The coaching staff that drafted me, I was so excited to be a part of that staff. They had spent time with Drew Brees in San Diego. So I thought, man, this is going to be great. But life throws curveballs at you. The NFL is a crazy business. You never know what team you land on. That 07 Dolphins, we went through a lot of difficulties. They changed staffs and GMs after my first year. So, it was a whirlwind. I loved my opportunities in Baltimore. I loved being a part of that team and that staff and that group of guys, and that locker room was amazing. And I got to go to Washington and, the relationships that I created with other coaches that are now head coaches across the league. Those are the things that I really kind of hold on to. Yes, the experience was tough and it didn't go the way that I would have liked. I had the opportunity to play in some games. I had the opportunity to be on, NFL teams for 6 years. And there's cool parts of it. But the thing I really hold on to, the things I learned, the relationships I've made, and a lot of the quarterbacks I train in the NFL are quarterbacks for the coaches I played for when I was in the league. And, I've just loved that closeness that I get to have to those coaches, to those teams. And I mean, even Gary Kubiak, Houston Texans, you look at the tree of the Shanahan, the Kubiak offense, all of these people that are in the NFL succeeding. And I know so many of those guys. And like I said, I train their quarterbacks. And that part is the really cool part for me. It did not work out, right? There was failure. There was tough times. There was tough moments. There was all of that stuff that, hey, it hurts. But I love the opportunity that going through those hard things gave me. I don't think I would have landed in what I am now had I not gone through those circumstances and connected with the people that I connected with. And quite honestly, it's a lot of those little failures that landed me into this gig that I have now, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, you learn from it, right? Resiliency, perseverance. John Beck with us. Some of the clients that you've worked with, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Andy Dalton, Blake Bortles, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Carson Wentz. Talk about going through adversity. Marcus Mariota, who's a perfect situation with Washington. He'd like to be playing more, but helped them when Jaden Daniels went out for a little bit. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. Trey Lance is on this list. And Tom Brady, by the way. Oh, I wanted to wait till the end to mention him. Trey Lance is in a situation, and we traded to Dallas. Dak Prescott looks like he's going to be out for multiple weeks. They have Cooper Rush, who's their backup. With Dallas going through what they're going through now, John, how important or how much do they need to give Trey Lance an opportunity here to see what he can actually do?
That's a tough question to answer because I know those guys so well because of my years of working with Dak Prescott, and I know Cooper Rush really well also, and I like a lot of the guys on that staff. It's tough to say. I think that's a team that's still fighting, right? Like I know the record's not what they want it to be, but we're still in a part of the season that you just don't know. Can a team get hot? Can a team improve? Cooper's gone out and Cooper's played well at times. I think it's very easy to fast forward and say, well, what should this team do if? You don't want to get past the if already. You don't want to just throw losses onto a team. Like football players are wired to fight. Coaching staffs are wired to fight and to compete. And what they're going to do is that staff's going to go and with the group that they have, they're going to say, what can we do right now? Maybe it does end up with some packages for Trey Lance. Maybe it does end up seeing him on the field. But I think the last thing I saw was Coop's going to go out and be the guy, and they're going to try to put together the best game plan they can. And they need wins right now. That's a team that needs wins. And, things are up in the air of Dak's return, and they're, doing all of those things. I just think you can't rush ahead of the what ifs until you let certain things play out.
Yeah, and I do know about the connection with Dak and Cooper Rush as well. Last thing, and John, thank you very much for your time. Former BYU quarterback John Beck with us. So BYU's undefeated. They've had a couple of games they found a way. The Big 12, usually there's about 3 or 4 games a year. And I'm not saying this is not the case in other conferences too, but about 3 or 4 games a year, like TCU a couple of years ago had that crazy run to the championship, got smoked, but they won 3 or 4 games at the buzzer. BYU's done that a couple of times. They're 9 in the country when it comes to the college football playoff standings. They're absolutely lower than they should be based on their resume. Do you think that that's a distraction, or do they have the ability to just focus on this week and go 1 week at a time?
I think if anything has taught them about how the season has gone, it's you do your best when you just focus on today. Like, they have zero control over what that committee decides. They have zero control. They never will have any control. Quite honestly, they can win out the rest of their games. What control do they have of where they land? So I think if they can understand that, right? Don't worry about style. Don't worry about decision makers. Their main thing is win this weekend. And then go put together the best practices you can the following week. Just go one game at a time, because ultimately the only thing that you can control is where you are sitting at the end of all of it. And then somebody else is going to decide. And you just have to live with it, play with it, and say next man up. Like, I look at the rest of their schedule, and I know that right now they're favored in every single game. What has the Big 12 taught us just in recent weeks? That does not matter, right? Who knows what is it going to be rain? Is it going to be cold? How's the running game going to be? Is there going to be injuries? Like, nobody knows what tomorrow brings. And so you just have to focus on today. And they have a really big one against the University of Utah. Like, I know that atmosphere. Like, I know University of Utah is going through some tough times right now with coaches leaving and players and, all this stuff. That stadium is not going to act like those things are happening. That stadium is going to act like every other Holy War stadium. And so BYU's main focus just needs to be that.
Isn't that crazy how we started this with you? And thank you, John, that a lot of people around the country did not quite understand or recognize the rivalry. BYU for a while was like independent or not a part of an Autonomy 5, Utah even, and then the Pac-12. And I hope it's a great game. I hope for BYU in the Big 12 that they're Utah's in the Big 12 too, but the Big 12 needs somebody to pretty much run the table to make sure that they're a part of the playoff and not just a conference champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so exciting to see BYU right now taking steps in that direction. And like we said earlier, right? Fun, crazy conference.
Yep.
There's some more weeks left. We'll see what happens. I'm, just hoping the Cougs can get the job done.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, John. Like what you represent. Appreciated your career, and thanks for your time. I hope to get you on down the road, too. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
John Beck with us, a former BYU quarterback. He has worked with many names, including, as I mentioned, the Trey Lance, Dak Prescott. He mentioned Cooper Rush. But all the other names, current Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, among others, and even Tom Brady. So he has had a heck of a career as a quarterback coach. Elite biomechanics training, and thanks to Brett Pine, Media Relations Director at BYU, for hooking us up with his agent, Duff Tittle, and also for the time with John Beck. We still have a lot to get to. Today at just after 5, we'll hear from Fox Sports broadcaster. Coming up next, in fact, it will be Brock Huard. And then right after that, we're going to hear from Scott Drew. Baylor was humiliated on Monday night in that game against Gonzaga. It's been a rough week, you can imagine. They also had a long, long night coming back from Washington, the state of Washington. Now they get John Calipari in Arkansas at the American Airlines Center coming up tomorrow evening. That ought to be a lot of fun. Hey, don't forget 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. Emery Winter is working on that. Garrett Ross is running the mothership. Craig and Paul will be back on Monday. Thanks to a lot of you all of you who have been a part of the chat, and also your feedback and opinion. We're not done. Brock Huard, Fox Sports, he's next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal, MRI.com. The average MRI cost $1,100. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners came up with the idea of Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace for you to get the evidence with a state-of-the-art imaging machine. An imaging machine that's going to help find out muscle tear, ligament damage. Going to find it. Your doctor request it. They put in a referral. They will call you. They will set up an appointment. I have been inside their state-of-the-art imaging machine 4 times. Twice for my lower back, once for my shoulder, and then also just, my neck. A lot of it was fine. But my lower back does have some things over age and the wear and tear of when I lost so much weight and working out as hard as I did, in a way to get rid of a lot of stuff around my muscles and ligaments. I'm okay, a little arthritis or whatever it might be, but I know what it is, and the doctors know what it is, and they've tried to help me along the way. Dr. Rob Maxey, $497 or less every single time, located inside the Central Texas marketplace. What they've done is given you an opportunity to help you and your doctor find out the exact reason you have pain that might keep you up at night, that might not help you function. Oh my God, it's always a problem. And $497 or less at idealmri.com.
I've had a lot of ailments. My goodness. Hey, this is David Smoak. I'm 65 years old, and I'm going to have some things break down. I work out still most every day. I can't run like I used to. My hip is bothering me, and I've had injections in my back. In fact, one back in April up in Dallas, and it worked, but it did not solve the problem. So I need to get another MRI of my lower back, my lower lumbar, and also at some point figure out, is that what is affecting me having this throbbing pain? And it's more often than I even admit in my right hip. Ideal MRI set me up with an MRI last week, thanks to my doctor calling them and saying, this is what we need from your state-of-the-art imaging machines. So, Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time. Dr. Rob Maxey and his ownership and partnership, they have done a phenomenal job. This saves you money, a bunch of money. The average is $1,100, and you don't pay anything more and sometimes less with idealmri.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
Midway Athletics and UBO Business Services are two names that exude winning. From Midway's top Central Texas Star test scores to college-like extracurricular facilities and UBO Business Services' industry-leading customer service scores, you can trust in these two winning programs. Best of luck to Coach Joe Gillespie and the Midway Panthers. And look at your sticker on your office equipment. If it does not say UBO, call Midway Class of 2020, Duff, Daxon, Dane, or Sean Hunt at 254-709-2101 or ubeo.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Bud Light. Enjoy the smooth, crisp taste of Bud Light beer. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Brock Huard, Fox Sports. Love listening to the games that he's a part of, and a great guest on this show. Brock Huard, Fox Sports, joins me. David Smoak on 365 Sports. Was the weather, the travel issues kind of a problem to get into Lubbock the last day?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I make home now south of Denver up there in the Rocky Mountains, and it started snowing Tuesday, kind of into Wednesday. I knew that it'd be a little rough yesterday. I can't complain. I had a couple hour delay, and we got out of there, but Matt Leinert and my buddy Jason Benetti, I think they rolled into town about 4 a.m. this morning after delays, landing in Midland, having to fly back into Lubbock. It was a little more adventurous for some, but I don't think the Buffs had too big of an issue, and thankfully to get out of the snow. And looks like, Smokey, it's going to be just a perfect day for football tomorrow.
It's a great, like a collision course, and of course Texas Tech made it even more so because of the win when they beat Iowa State in Ames after a tough couple of losses to Baylor and TCU. What do you see what they're doing? Because they've had a nice stretch, and then they had those 2 losses with Baron Morton, Taj Brooks and company.
Yeah, I think that's just it. Quite a bit of experience and poise. Kelly's been around the block an awful lot. Baron now has seen a ton in his career. This morning we got to sit down. I got to watch practice with Texas Tech, and then we sit with the coaches and sit with Taj and sit with Jacob Rodriguez. And you know what you sit with, Smokey? You sit with grown men. I'm looking at my big board between these two teams. Colorado's got quite a phenom at left tackle, Jordan Seaton. He was a 5-star, number 1 rated offensive lineman. He's really the only freshman that plays for Colorado. Nobody defensively. They're all largely 5th and 6-year guys. I got a couple second-year players, but by and large, these are 21, 22, 23-year-old guys that are really mature. You see the same thing with them offensively with Shadeur and all their receivers. They've all been there and done that and seen so much football. So none of them feel overwhelmed. And I would say the same thing largely about Texas Tech. Obviously Hudson's been a guy that has been banged up this year as a true freshman. But once again, I'm kind of looking at my board here. Do I see a freshman anywhere? Backup QB, Hammond obviously got a little run there at TCU. It did a nice job. But I mean, outside of that, I don't see a true freshman really contributing other than the left tackle for Colorado on this entire football field tomorrow.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because and do you feel like even though those teams get good players in Colorado with Deion and what he does, and Joey with what he recruits, but is that just now life in college football more often than not with the transfer portal?
It is, but this is pretty stark. I mean, this one here in this matchup really speaks to that they're just, for a freshman to try to come in and unseat either of these guys that you have brought in, and in the case of Colorado, a lot of them, and we've heard Deion talk about that over the last couple years, and the amount of, you kind of just look to build a team. They have built it largely through free agency. Now he brought a bunch of his son and others, and the super talented Travis from Jackson State, kind of like Signetti did to Indiana. So he's got familiarity with a half dozen or more that he brought from there. But yeah, they've largely built it through that free agent portal, and that is a little different. Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, some of the teams at the top of the college football playoff, they have still largely gone through the high school development end. And I think I know that's what Joey wants to do. And he's done a good job the last two classes. You've got a bunch of redshirt freshmen that are certainly contributing. It's just really hard for those guys right out of high school.
Brock, the Big 12, and you've covered them enough that it's even with Texas and Oklahoma moving on, it's like a potpourri, like a pot of gumbo of different type of styles and personalities and teams from the different realignment. And we've seen this before. 21 Baylor won a lot of close games, and they had an incredible team. Then 22 TCU made the run before Georgia smoked them, which they did that to most everybody. And now this year, BYU's won some close games, among others. You cover a lot of college football. There's a lot of blue bloods, but not so much in this conference. Is it one of the deepest or widest or maybe most fun conferences to cover?
Yeah, it is wild. I will tell you that. Like week to week, man, there is so much variety of scheme. I know we're going to go meet with Deion and his staff, and this will be our third CU game that we have done this year. And obviously, it's been well documented that Deion, likes not only experienced players, he also likes experienced coaches that have a lot of NFL background. His OC, Pat Shurmur, and his defensive coordinator, Livingston, basically lived in the whole NFL game more than anybody else. And it's fun talking to them. And especially Pat Shurmur, because he just speaks to that. He's like, man, the NFL, you got 32 teams, and basically everybody largely does the same thing in scheme. Miami introduced some RPO, the Dolphins, and there's some varieties. Obviously, what Lamar does in Baltimore is different. But by and large, everybody plays a four-man front. You see a lot of the same coverages. Third down and red zone is really the game. And like Pat says, this college game is way more fluid. And you can see Cincinnati and Iowa State, three-man front, 3-3-5 defense, and it's totally different than Colorado's real NFL man-to-man defense. Texas Tech with the Rooters trying to find solutions to do just about everything with the kitchen sink and all sorts of formations and personnel grouping. So, it's the Wild West. That conference that I used to play in and cover is really no longer. And this has become certainly the Big 12, the Wild, Wild West.
There was a lot of heat on Dave Aranda and Baylor, and early on, none of that changed because they had a rough start. And, of course, the Hail Mary against Colorado and losing that game the way they did. They've now won 3 in a row. Really not so much out of nowhere, but pretty much out of nowhere because the first one was against Texas Tech in Lubbock. What do you see from what he's done to maybe turn this thing back around?
Well, I see a little more continuity at quarterback.
Yep.
I think early this year, and we had them up at Utah, and golly, that feels like 2 seasons ago with everything that's gone down at Utah, and then the turnaround at Baylor. It doesn't even feel like the same kind of teams. But remember, Baylor obviously tried to go a different route at quarterback that was not going to work with Spavital. You could even feel that early in the season. Just wasn't his kind of QB that he needs to spray the ball everywhere and get the ball out of his hands and do all of that. So they've settled down there. But I would say this, Smoak, like the other thing about the Big 12, and you'll see it with Colorado tomorrow. You see it with BYU. I just saw it with Houston, with Baylor. There's some really good front fours defensively. Now, it's not Georgia and it's not Oregon, but they're really, really solid. And they're ahead of certainly lots of other schools in that way. So when we saw Baylor, I'm like, man, these edge players are good. Your linebacker's pretty good. Dave's got some salty dudes there. When I saw Willie Fritz's Houston Cougars last week, who also have won 3 of 4, I'm like, man, this defensive front, you just don't move around. Again, grown men, a lot of production, played other places, but they know how to play the game. So a bunch of veterans in these front sevens around the Big 12, or BYU, as I mentioned in there earlier, Colorado, who you're going to see tomorrow. That's made a significant difference to solidify their teams from the inside out right at the line of scrimmage.
Brock, I have to admit this. I did on the show, I think, on Monday. I went to go look at, I think it might have been Washington's record, your Washington's record, and I went and tried to find where they were in the Pac-12 because – I'm old school, and I know they're in the Big Ten, and I knew that. How often have you done that this year where you were looking for somebody in not the right conference anymore?
Oh, it's pretty wild. Yeah, it's it is. It's still surreal to me when I've called some of these games and I see that Big Ten logo. We did Washington at Iowa. We've done Oregon a couple times, and you're just like, man, that just doesn't. I don't know, like where did that Pac-12 go? Or I'll try to watch and see Stanford and Cal playing at Wake Forest and Clemson and NC State and SMU. Like, this is an ACC game? Like, none of this still has really sunk in and been sensical, but it is the era we live in. And now I will say this, like, as crazy as that is, what's coming in the next few weeks with the playoffs, and obviously the first playoff rankings this week, as you start to look at that, I mean, it is as healthy as it's been, I think, competitively. And when we get to those 12 teams, I think all of us that have covered this game like you have for decades, when we do get to that point, it is going to be like Christmas morning with some kind of special present under the tree.
Yeah, teams get to play on their home campus, even though they won't have that first round bye with conference champions, but they get to play on their home campus. I know you got another meeting to get to. What are your thoughts about, do you think, no matter what is said with Ward Manuel or any other ones in the past, is there any kind of, in your opinion, an issue with the logos on the helmets when they come to those rankings?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's the bias you're talking about, the logos, the history.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's human beings that are doing that job. I will say this: the Mike Rileys of the world, who's on that committee this year, I know that they will work their very best to eliminate as much of that bias as they can. I know that with 12 teams, it's going to be so much easier in some regards to get those teams and really reward those teams who've had a remarkable season and a remarkable run. We won't have what we had some years ago with Baylor and TCU and some of these teams that you knew were deserving to be in the competition. With 12, you're going to get 12 pretty darn good deserving teams. And on paper right now, some pretty compelling matchups.
Last thing, your daughter Macy, I've watched it. She's really good. Saw you sit down with an interview. What's that like watching her compete?
Yeah, pretty neat. And, these resources in this Big 12 are different. And she started her career at Montana with Big Sis, who finished her career there. And she knew she just has kind of a lion's heart to compete and really wanted to be the best. And Smokey, that's the thing is, the Big Ten and the SEC and all that and all the firepower they have and the contracts and yada, yada, yada. But you travel around like we did to Houston last week and you see what they're building. I'm in Lubbock today, walk through their facility, what they're building. So many of these across the conference, Iowa State that has done such a beautiful job upgrading their building. Like there is more than enough resources for these schools. And this year, I don't know if they'll get more than one into this playoff, but in time they will. And then it's upon them to go make some noise in it.
Go have a great broadcast, Brock. Enjoy your time. I know you will. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
You betcha, man.
Thank you.
Smokey.
Brock Huard with us, Fox Sports. Always enjoy his insight. And thanks to Ann Pennington for helping to set that up. Of course, Tim Brando, a part of Fox Sports, and Devin Gardner, a part of Fox Sports, among some others. Got a note from Kim Coulter on the comment. Where is it here? Hold on. I got to get this. You got to get the face ID. Kim Coulter goes, by the way, Tech does have 5 freshmen and sophomores playing in the secondary. So they are young there. Thanks for the time. Appreciate that, Kim. Yes, for those of you in the chat, Kim is listening and watching the show. He's not in the chat. I could say I either put him in the timeout corner or he put us in the timeout corner. I know some of you have been like, oh, my God, is everything okay? It's fine.
If we're fine. Sometimes, you know what? It's fine. But I appreciate everybody. I think Kim might die now that I just brought that up.
So.
Garrett, I think I just outed him.
You might have.
What do they call that when doxed him? Kim and I have traded text messages. We are both a little bit sometimes full throttle. I love the guy. He did something for my older brother. Everyone knows that last summer in 2023. That made his 69th birthday the greatest he may have ever had, and then, of course, passed away in April. Sometimes we have these, one thing about sports fans, and we see it, and it's different. No, it's not. Sometimes you can, there's this ego thing now because of attendance or TV ratings, but in the end, we all love the game. We all love the game, and we're going to argue sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. I think I just gave Kim and I told him, I said, hey, do me a favor. I swear to God I did this. I told him, and I appreciate him checking in with me on the youth and the secondary. I said, please go into the chat and tell everybody that we are engaged.
Oh, my God.
I did. I absolutely told him to do that. Sir blah, 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 APB out for Kim. I did. Kyle Visser, glad you were here. Hear. Kyle, you were talking about me misspelling words. That's one, though. I find myself, and I am anal about spelling. There's a couple of words where I have to be very careful. But I apparently misspelled. I think I misspelled a word, adios. I may have put the I and O, but it wasn't on purpose. Let's see here. Anybody in here drop your... Here, retired stockbroker asked this question, then we'll have Scott Drew. Anybody in here drop your DSL cable provider once fiber optics available? Yeah, I have 100 megs for $90, but can get a gig for 10 to 15 more. Underground and Fire Optimum's blank with the free land. I get Spectrum. I've never had any issues with them. There are times when I notice that my bill may go up, and next thing you know, it's like 200, 227, 267. Then I call them and go cut it out. Now, there's a few channels that I normally would like to have that I found that for some reason I'm like, well, how the hell? Why do I not have that one? And I know my youngest brother, Philip, who lives on the east coast of Florida in Fort Pierce, in a beautiful, incredible view in a condo with his wife, Marianne. He's got all of the gadgets. They got the big antenna on top of the, 20 stories or whatever stories condo right there on the coast. And they were wasting money, the group, the people that live there. And finally, Philip went to what is like, an HOA, like a homeowner's meeting, and said, what are we doing? And they put a big old antenna. So they get Fort Lauderdale and they get Jacksonville. They get this and saved everybody a ton of money. He also knows, what is it called? Sling.
Oh, like Sling TV and all that
stuff.
Yeah.
That's too much for me. My son-in-law, Daniel, finally convinced me back when Alabama was going to play Texas, early on of 2023. And I don't know what it was, but he convinced me to get YouTube TV. Now, I have Spectrum and I have YouTube TV. I love YouTube TV. And if I could understand it a little bit more, I would probably drop my cable. But then I need the internet. And so retired stockbroker, I hope we had a chance to maybe answer that question for you. Fiber is supposed to be the way of the future from Dustin. I got cable internet. It's so-so. We used UPN network. Paul got that lined up with us, right?
Yes.
With Ace and all that.
Game changer.
And we have had, whenever you've seen you would about once every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
We'd have one of those. It would buffer. And it was the bandwidth that was in this building. So finally, Paul got to know Ace at UPN. Whenever you see us, if we do buffer or we get disconnected, it is the system we're running to put it up. It's not UPN.
Correct.
It's usually something that, like with our networking, what we use to broadcast out to everybody, it's the equipment, right? Like something like is,
what do
it's
you
like
call
a system malfunction or
yeah,
something.
Yeah, or something like in the middle of the show, it might want to, whatever, so, but there we go. Basic Cox Internet only and HUBU-TV. What's HUBU-TV?
I have no clue.
That's from Old Barn Cat, go K-State. Sling is the best bang for your buck, in my opinion. Sir blah, blah, blah. Smokey is upset they took away the Lithuanian channel. I think I can get that on YouTube TV somewhere. All right, so thank you for your time. We're not done. We got much more to get to. Baylor lost at Gonzaga this past week on Monday. I actually tried to stay up for that game. I couldn't make it more than thank goodness. It was about 21-9 after a blitzkrieg of points by Gonzaga. They ended up winning by 38 or whatever it was. Worst loss for Baylor since, I believe, 2007. Scott Drew joined me earlier today. We were able to record the interview with him. They're playing Arkansas tomorrow at the American Airlines Center. We'll have that and more. This is 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Is your car ready for a makeover? Get ready to fall in love with your ride again at City Tire and Battery. City Tire and Battery is family owned and has provided expert service with top quality products since 1942. And with financing available, there's no reason to put off those much needed upgrades. Give your car the love it deserves and go see City Tire and Battery, located at 1502 South Valley Mills in Waco.
New arrivals just dropped at Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco. Looking for the best Baylor gear? Barefoot is the place to grab your gear. Game day polos, tees, tanks, caps, clear stadium bags, jewelry, and more. Barefoot Outfitters has all the essentials with unique campus apparel and offering comfortable garments and designs. Long-lasting images that people continue to enjoy wearing time and time again. Located right off I-35 on Spate, or shop at barefootcampusoutfitter.com and get free shipping on orders $75 or more. Go Bears!
Everything we do for you. First Central Credit Union says it's game on. Lower your monthly vehicle payments by refinancing your vehicle with First Central. Make it a winning season with refinancing set to your preferences. You decide the due date and frequency. Financed elsewhere? Save money with a new local game plan. Apply online today. We make it easy to score at firstcentralcu.com.
Membership and loan policy requirements apply. Member NCUA.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Call Deborah Holder at 254-300-7202 to see if you qualify to save up to 40% on your auto insurance.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
65 Sports and Gonzaga, Arkansas with Calipari. Man, what a week, huh? How has it been since what happened so late Monday night that was kind of a disaster?
I think I equate that to us older people that watch the movie Perfect Storm. I think you had to throw everything in the mix, them returning 8 and 9 starters, us beating them the last 2 times, and 11:30 tip time our time, and at the end of the day, you throw all that in, and Gonzaga might be the best team in the country as of today. So it was a tall order for a team returning 1 starter to go up there and compete. The good thing is it exposed some things that hopefully we can rectify in the next couple of weeks here, because the goal is to get ready for conference. And you don't know what's going to work against the best teams in the country unless you play the best teams in the country in the non-conference. Now, there's 2 ways to do it. One, you can go 12-0 in non-conference and not get a lot of good night's sleeps, feel great about everything, and then first 2 conference games find out, crud, we got a lot to fix or change. Or you can figure it out right away. So honestly, we wish we had about 2 weeks of practice because we could fix some things a little bit more than this quick turnaround. The good news is in basketball, you play normally twice a week, which means you don't have to stew on a loss forever.
So what do you have to fix?
Well, I think if I told you everything, then that would probably help Arkansas, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir, it would. But, okay, let's talk about your defense, because obviously there was some issues. How important is it going to be for you to find on-ball disruption, deflections, all of that kind of thing, and play like a bunch of mad, crazy people?
Well, I think the first thing is Gonzaga did a really good job exploiting our switching, especially through the post, and that was something that was very evident from the beginning, and something that we didn't think it would end up turning into being that tough. It's kind of like, since we're in football season, you think you got a great line, and then you're running a lot of long pass pattern plays, and you're getting sacked before they're ever getting downfield. So I think the post defense on our switching was the biggest issue. Our perimeter defense was decent, and again, we had 2 scrimmages, and that none of that was exposed in the scrimmages. So we learned some valuable lessons during that game for sure.
You can learn lessons and you can learn from it, but is there any concern that you have scars that might last a while?
No, I think the great thing is when you want to make changes, want to fix things, normally just takes a little time to get down what you're doing and how you're doing it. So the good news is we practiced for a month basically, and you got hopefully 5 months plus a season left.
I saw somebody post something that there's a basketball analyst about teams that switch the 1 to 5 like you do. Don't panic. Switching takes time to get good because players talking to each other, very hard, the communication. Is that just something that reps, time, practice in games is going to eventually lead to?
Yeah, well, whatever you do, you're going to get better at it over time. That's for certain. But then also other teams you face will get better at time. If you just base the analytics, the toughest way to score in the NBA is on ISOs, and the toughest way to score in college is on ISOs, and both of those exist when you switch. So unfortunately, again, through the post was the issue, and that was something that we've been able to rectify. But
all right.
But it doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It's going to take a little time in the rectification.
Is that inside just not big enough, tall enough, or is that like what you said, just communication and
I mean, schematically you can make changes, personnel you can make changes. How you double team can be different. So again, I don't want to get into a bunch of that playing Arkansas tomorrow. But in the next couple of weeks, we can talk a lot more about it.
Well, it's interesting because you do play Arkansas, and Calipari's there, and they won their first game. And most everybody that's a highly ranked team does play somebody they're going to beat by 40, 50, or 60 points. You guys played, perhaps, as you said, the best team in the country. What about what he does? Even if just played one game, do you see anything different than what he's always done at Memphis, UMass, or Kentucky?
Well, he's a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. One, he's always had great players, but two, his teams win. And at the end of the day, he's taken Memphis, UMass, Kentucky, all the Final Fours, and he's won a national championship. So a lot of success. With it starts with the speed and quickness of their backcourt and the athleticism in the front line, blocking shots. And if you let those guys get in transition, it's a long night.
What about the comment, and I asked Matt Roberts about this, about some of your guys near the end of the game were having issues with cramps. You've got the best strength and conditioning coach in America with Charlie Melton.
Yeah.
Was that just kind of a fluky thing?
I think I'd put it a perfect storm. I mean, we don't play a lot of games at 12:30 our time.
Sure.
When the last cramp happened. But I mean, as a coach, you adjust everything. It's okay. What can we do pregame wise, food wise, nutrition wise, and rotation wise, and style of play? Everything gets analyzed. So with that, part of that goes into first game jitters, and normally guys throughout the year get in better shape to play more minutes. But in the beginning of the year, that adrenaline rush and the excitement of putting on a uniform with the crowd, I mean, that's real.
All right. So how has practice been this week? You have a late flight back, so you don't really almost like miss a half a day there too. How's it been?
Good. You have to take the day off. So Tuesday was the day off, and then we've been able to work on some things Wednesday, Thursday. Today will obviously be lighter, so it gave you 2 practice days, and the Wednesday couldn't be as hard as normal from the standpoint we didn't get back to 6:30, and that does take a little longer to get over. So great. We got a great team. You listen to the strength coach, you listen to the trainer, nutritionist. You try not to tap guys out for the games. So taking all that into consideration, like I said, you just wish in a perfect world we would have scrimmaged Gonzaga, had 2 weeks to work on stuff, then been ready to open the season. But a lot of times matchups bring out different things, and not everybody plays the same way. And I mean, Gonzaga might be, as we said, I think Ken Palm had him second best offense going in, but not many people play through the post like they do in college basketball, not even the NBA. And it was really effective.
Scott, you have great players. That's why you've won a national title and been where you've been. You have freshmen that are like superstar type names, and VJ Edgecombe had a tough start. He had the big posterize of Fuse's son on the dunk. How do you go about making sure those players he's just so good. He'll be fine. Just one game, but how much is the intense pressure on players like him? You've had a few of those.
I think first and foremost, nobody likes losing, and nobody likes losing. It was the worst loss since 2007. So right now, nobody should be in their feelings. Nobody wants that feeling again. So it's all about winning. What can I do to help the team win? How can I do my job better? And really, it starts always with reflection. It starts with looking at yourself, and coaches, coaching staff. Starts with us making sure we're on point. And we have a new staff too, so a lot of learning going on our end of things. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I didn't have the team prepared for what we were going to face, even though, again, we knew it was going to be a real challenging game. They weren't prepared, and I take the responsibility for that first and foremost.
All right, right behind you, and I'll leave it with this. Right behind you is that there's a beautiful arena of the pavilion that you have, and now you're there, and you're able to be there. What's that like, knowing you can look over and see what you're going to do and where you're going to play, and have everything in one big, nice, happy building?
Man, it is so nice. But I tell you what's even nicer is playing a game in here. So we can't wait till next week when we get a chance to play a game in here, because the 12,000 Gonzaga fans definitely help them.
Hey, man, I know you say you don't sleep much after a loss. I know it's been a long week. Good luck against Arkansas, the American Airlines Center. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Well, thank you. And for all the Baylor fans that stayed up and watched, we apologize, like I said in the post game, and we will get better. So thank you.
There's no question. That's why you are a Hall of Fame coach. Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach, as they play Arkansas tomorrow. And this is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
For Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into the Friday edition of the Top 5. I'm not here today. I'm sure you noticed that in the whole show. I wasn't here. But I have magical powers to pop up and do a top 5 whenever I want. So, I mean, why not use them if I have them? So, top 5 games that will affect the CFP this week. Number 5, Texas Tech versus Colorado. Well, look, Colorado on the outside and Tech definitely not making the playoff with 3 losses, but here's what could happen. Colorado has a great chance of keeping winning, letting everything around them continue to be chaos, and jumping into the Big 12 championship, which a win would put them in regardless. Tech can take Colorado out of that effectively by beating them, so this game actually does affect the college football playoff. On the outside, but this is an elimination game for Colorado in that, because I don't know if there's a way they can get back in to the Big 12 title game if they take the loss this week or any other loss for the rest of the season. Number 4, Alabama versus LSU. Garrett said it. Everybody in the country is going to be Tiger fans this week because Alabama, unjustifiably by most, ranked 11th. And this is an elimination game for either the Tide or the Tigers, who will, one of them, have their 3rd loss when this all shakes out. Now, LSU will have two good losses. One to Bama, one to A&M, and one bad one to USC. Alabama would have, essentially 3 good losses, but because Vanderbilt is a good team, and so is LSU. So even still, though, a 9-3 team, even the SEC is going to have to do some work and hope that their other conference mates falter along the way. And there's just too many of them for that to happen in a realistic scenario. But I do agree with Garrett. Everybody's saying go Tigers this weekend. Number 3, Clemson versus Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech out of this thing, but Clemson's got to be on upset alert again. That was a very bad loss they had to Louisville last week. Not in the terms of Louisville's a really good team, but Not good when the first really good team you've played since Georgia in week 1 was Louisville, and you lost decisively. Clemson needs to get in the ACC championship game even to have a shot at this. A loss to Virginia Tech takes them out of that realistically and would put them out of the playoff no matter what, unless they found their way back in and won that game. Number 2, the Holy War. Utah out of it. BYU very much in it. But losing to a Utah team that's in a free fall right now would not look good on BYU's resume. Now, it'd be allowed 1 loss, but it would be bad for the Big 12 as a whole to have 2 teams with a loss and not an undefeated team going into that Big 12 championship game. So the Holy War this week between BYU and Utah has more playoff implications because it could be a huge upset alert, giving it as a huge rivalry game, and they hate each other's guts so much, you can kind of throw a lot of the things out the window. Okay, Utah doesn't have a quarterback. Well, you might not need one if you can only hold BYU to 17 points. And all of those things that could go into this. So, and of course, number 1, UGA versus Ole Miss. Michelle Tanner here says, duh. That's true. It's obviously the biggest one. A loss to Ole Miss doesn't kill Georgia's chances, but it doesn't help them. And a loss to Georgia puts Ole Miss out of it. So the winner of this game is sitting pretty, and the loser has some things to prove. If Ole Miss can finally, under Lane Kiffin, get a win versus a team like this with postseason implications, that'll be huge for the Rebs. But I don't know what to expect in this game. I do expect Georgia to maybe play better than they have the last couple weeks, but Carson Beck has been a turnover machine the last month of the season. Ole Miss might be ready for that with all the talent they have in that roster, and seems to have buoyed after a huge win over Arkansas last week where they had all the guns firing on offense. That's going to do it for the top 5. Have a great weekend, everybody.